All right. Looks like we're live. I'm going to go post the stream announcement on Twitter, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, I think we're good to go. I'm going to jump over to the chill stream layout. We'll get started. All right, I think everything is good to go. We've got the BGM playing. As folks trickle in, we'll make sure the sound balance is good. I'm using the settings from the last stream that we did, and I don't think there'll be any issues with the sound, but it'll be a good test of the new BGM tracks. Today will be the official debut of some new ones. There's 3 that'll come up in the rotation, and if I manage to catch them while we're talking about stuff, then I can point them out. In fact, right now that's one of the new ones, Frequency. So before I jump into the tier list, which is going to be the bulk of the stream today, I did want to talk about some updates for upcoming content here on the channel and for streams, since these particular chill streams are a good chance to give sort of a recap for the stuff that I'm working on and stuff that's coming. So I'm still in the process of planning out what I want to stream next week. There'll be a mix of gaming and other type of content as well. I'm thinking of going back to a drawing stream since it's been a couple weeks since we've done one. I want to pick up on the Monster Hunter Fusion project since we haven't done that in a few sessions. So I think there'll be at least one art stream next week. As far as gaming goes, I mentioned before on the last stream that I was looking at potentially getting an emulator for Android set up on my computer so I could try out some mobile games. And I was able to get BlueStacks installed. I was doing that earlier today, in fact. And I did install Punishing Gray Raven. So I think I'm going to focus on exploring that game for one stream next week. I just haven't decided if I want to go in completely unfamiliar and cold, or if I want to start the game up and at least look around. I might look at some videos on YouTube about the gameplay and see. So I don't want to waste a good chunk of the stream just going through tutorials and sitting through stuff that's not going to be interesting to you guys. So I will figure that out, and then we should be good to go for the actual stream. For the rest of content, there will most likely be a jam stream at the end of next week. I'm in the process of putting together some information and stuff that I want to practice and go over from a sound study perspective. So if I can come up with enough stuff to talk about on a jam session or jam stream, then we'll do one of those. Another thing that I'm thinking about doing, it's either going to be in place of a jam stream and we'll move it to another week, but I do want to start doing media share stuff. And I've talked about it a few times on previous streams when we've been talking about specifically beatbox content. I think I'm going to pull the trigger on one of these weekend streams since it's usually when I have more time to prepare. And I want to do the first media share stream with a bunch of content and YouTube videos from the beatbox community so that we can take a look and I can talk a little bit about stuff that's out in the scene, since pretty much the only real exposure to beatboxing here on the channel and streams has been me doing stuff. I think it'd be good to show more of the scene, show the professional side, and even the loop station side of what's out there. So between now and then, and maybe next weekend, I'm going to look at curating a list of media share content that we can look at on stream. I think that would be interesting. And then we'll see how the format works. I do want to do media share stuff every once in a while for other things that aren't just beatboxing, but beatboxing is going to be the first focus, since I think that will be fun. Aside from that, there's still some stuff in the background I'm working on. I need to sit down and record the next chunk of footage for the Guilty Gear character exploration series that I started. Since I definitely want to get into that game more and test streaming it live too with the new connections. I haven't done that yet. Hey, what's up, Edward? Welcome to the stream. Am I talking about edibles? I'm talking about edible things. I'm not talking about specific types of mind-altering edibles, since I don't want to promote any inappropriate behavior to folks via my streaming platform. But it's a good clarifying question to ask. I get the feeling if I'm going to get canceled for any hot takes, it's going to be from the stuff we talk about here with food. I think most of the stuff I've talked about so far on these tier lists has been pretty benign and not really that polarizing. But when you talk about food, it's like food and anime are two big ones that if people disagree with your opinion, they're going to disagree hard with your opinion. But that's okay. Are you able to hear the BGM? Let's see. Why is this one so low? Oh, it's because it's under the ground. Under the ground is. I may have to re-record that one. That was the very first loop I ever made. It was actually before the loop station, so I actually edited by hand. But the volume level on that one is kind of low compared to the others. So before I start uploading stuff, I'm into a downloadable spot. I may have to redo Under the Ground, or I could just leave it, and that'll be a good benchmark for the very first BGM track I ever made. Let me jump to the next one, since most of the volume levels on everything after that are pretty standard. So let me know if the volume level's too low. It just needs to be in the background. It doesn't need to be super audible. But even this one is showing pretty low on the audio readout for OBS over my mic, which is weird. Where's my settings? Let me check my settings real quick. Make sure I don't have it unusually low. We're going to be jumping to the tier list template anyway, but I do want to make sure I have the proper sound settings. Oh, I have my settings way lower than they should be. I'm going to boost this up to the way I have it written down here from my notes. Actually, I'm going to do kind of in the middle, and then I'll have to write this down again. I'm going to set it about here. Let me know if this is either too loud or still too soft for the BGM. For some reason I don't know why I had it set so low. It could be that was from when we were doing other music besides the loop BGM stuff, but I'll keep it here for now, and I'll use this on the other template when we switch. Yeah, it's getting a little over 50%. And my mic is topping out considerably louder if I lean really close to it, which I'll try not to do. Well, okay, it sounds good. All right, I'll leave the settings here for now. It's 11.7. I'm gonna have to adjust it on the other layout too, but that's okay. That's pretty much it for channel stream content updates. I've got some stuff in the works, but next week should be pretty consistent. We'll take a look at some new stuff, and depending on how things pan out, maybe we'll start working in some new types of content and mix things up a little bit. Hello, super sexy boing boing big oppai neko mimi o nechan. Welcome to the chill stream. I think I've seen you swing by before, so welcome. We're about to jump into the truly controversial part of the stream today and start talking about opinions on food. So if we're good with sound settings, I'm gonna jump over to the tier list template. Okay, looks like our sound settings are good to go on this layout too. I think they just carried forward. That's fine. I will make note. We'll keep it about here. This track that's playing now is another one of the new ones. I said I'd point out when the new debut ones get rotated in. I'll do it a couple times, and I won't point it out every single time. But this one, Amplitude, was one of the stream sounds BGM tracks that I did, so I reworked it a little bit and recorded it. The other two new ones are from the actual jam sessions we've done. Alright, I think everything on my browser is good. I need to make sure I don't cut off parts of the tier list when we're talking about stuff. But let's go ahead and jump into the first one. So like I said, today we're doing food. I've got a couple planned. Let's see if we can get through 3 of them. This first one I don't think is going to take very long because there's not a lot of them here that I have to talk about. The next one's going to be a little more involved. But first up, we're doing sushi. Specifically, these are types of nigiri, or the 2-piece sushi. And I combed through the tier list site at length, trying to find one that had a lot of things on it. So this was the most detailed one I could find after doing some searching around. But I figured since we're doing food, I'd start with one of my favorite foods, which is sushi. I got into sushi when I came here and went to Earth School, started Earth School. And after being introduced to some pretty good places from the friends I made in Earth School, that's when I really got hooked into sushi. And as a result, it's one of my favorite things to eat. So this particular tier list has a lot of pretty well-known types of nigiri and sushi that you'd see at a restaurant. It is labeled in Japanese, in microscopic text. It's pretty hard to read. But what I've done is I've separated out the ones that I haven't tried, because I haven't tried every single type of sushi in existence. The ones on the bottom are ones I have tried. And some of them aren't labeled. So I'm going to have to make an assumption of what they are, but the rating for the tier list will be based on whatever I assume they are by classification here. Alright. So I have this particular tier list from S to C, since I don't think I'm going to be ranking anything lower than a C than for this particular one. And then obviously haven't tried all the ones down here. The The big standout one on the haven't tried tiers is uni, which I'm pretty sure that's what this is, even though it's not labeled. Sea urchin. I have not tried that. That's one that I'm probably going to wait till I get a chance to go to Japan to try, just because you really have to trust your restaurant when it comes to uni. I've talked to folks that have tried it in places here in the States that were maybe less than reputable, and they didn't have a good time. So, not opposed to the idea of sea urchin. I'm just going to wait till I can try it from a really reputable joint and have a good experience. Well, let's take a look at the list. The first one on here, this is maguro, or tuna. This is the red meat for tuna. There's several cuts of tuna on the list here that I can see. And maguro tends to be kind of the more economical, on the lower level, not, I wouldn't say quality, just lower level cuts of tuna. It's the most red as far as the flesh goes, and tends to be a bit more firm. It can have a bit more of a noticeable taste compared to some of the other cuts, but it's not bad. I do like maguro. It's not my first choice when it comes to sushi joints, but I've never turned it down whenever I've had a chance to eat it. If you get it from a good, well-sourced restaurant, it's pretty good. So I'm going to put maguro on B tier. I'll have some more opinions on some of the other cuts of tuna that we're going to get to later. Next up, we've got ebi. Ebi is shrimp, and this particular type of nigiri is boiled shrimp, cooked. Usually it's a butterflied or 2 slices of shrimp with the tails on that are boiled and served on top rice. And I feel like if people are just getting into sushi and maybe they're not used to trying things that are raw, and they're just trying to test the waters and see what's out there without getting into the deep end of the pool when it comes to sushi, I feel like ebi is a good place to start because again it's cooked. There's nothing raw. The consistency of the shrimp is similar, kind of like cocktail shrimp, which I think are also boiled. But I do like ebi. I don't usually order it just because it's fairly common. But if I ever have a chance to eat it, I'm not going to turn it down. And I'm actually going to put that above maguro. To recap how we do tier lists here, the tiers go from highest ranking to lowest, and then the entries on the tier list go from highest to lowest, going left to right. So if I put something to the left of something else, it means it's higher ranking in the tier itself. So I put regular shrimp above maguro here. Next up, we've got for another one of the seafood types. This one's interesting. This is anago. And anago is sea eel. Probably one of the more common types of seafood you see in most sushi joints is down here, unagi. And unagi is eel as well, but it's river eel. So it's freshwater. Anago is sea eel and saltwater. And of all of the different types of seafood you can get on sushi in places I've been to here, again, I live on the West Coast, so seafood's pretty accessible where I live, and sushi's pretty popular in my particular area. But the one that I had the hardest time finding at even the most traditionally run Japanese-owned sushi restaurants is definitely anago. And I think it's just not as well known here. In Japan, I'm pretty sure it's fairly more common. Unagi is pretty commonplace in most sushi joints. I never have an issue seeing that. But the sea eel, that's more rare. I can only think of 2 places in my immediate area that I've been to that have had it consistently. And usually when I go to other places and ask, they say we just don't carry it. Probably because there's not a lot of demand. But the reason why I'm lingering on this one is because anago is one of my favorite things to have on sushi. So it's S tier. Finding a place that has anago and it's relatively fresh is rare. But when I do find it and it's fresh, it is one of my favorite things ever. So for that reason, it's going to go near the top. I don't know if it's going to be the very top of the list, but it's going up to S tier. I love onago. It's kind of a rare treat. And I'd say if you're ever checking out a reputable sushi joint and you see this on the menu, I would try it, especially if you're a fan of unagi, because it's different in flavor and texture. So I just sort of distinguish why I like it so much. Unagi tends to be a bit more savory and firm, kind of similar in texture to catfish. Not quite similar in flavor, but in texture and kind of being a bit more of an oily type of fish texture. You get that in unagi. Onago tends to be more soft, and weirdly enough, even though it's sea eel, it's sweet. Any onago I've ever had tends to be more on the sweet side as opposed to salty or savory. So it's a different flavor, but it tends to be pretty mellow and soft, good texture. This looks like a fillet. It could be a fillet over rice, just a big slice, but yeah. That's my jam. I love onago. This is very hard to find. It's a good thing I'm doing this after I ate lunch. I'll be making myself real hungry. Moving on. Next one. This is hamachi. Hamachi is yellowtail. And kind of similar to the regular cuts of tuna, hamachi is similar in texture-ish, but a little bit more distinct in flavor. It tends to be somewhat firm and has a kind of mild fishiness intensity as far as fishiness and flavor goes. But hamachi's great. I'm putting that one on A tier. You can find hamachi in most common restaurants. It's kind of the counterpart to maguro down here. But to me, it ranks higher. It's better flavor and texture. I will say, you can usually get away with a spectrum of quality to a degree with maguro. You can't get away with that with hamachi, in my opinion, from what I've seen in restaurants. If you go to a place that is not reputable when it comes to stocking and sourcing hamachi, you're going to tell with that one. If it's not as good quality, it's going to be apparent, because as hamachi ages, and it seems like it ages faster than some of the other types of fish used in sashimi, it gets fishy fast. So if it's not super fresh, you'll be able to tell. This is why I usually won't order that unless I know the place really well and I trust that they're getting their seafood from a good source. That's a good one. Next up, we've got hotate. This is scallop. And I know for probably most people that are used to eating seafood, they're probably used to eating scallops cooked. And these are the large scallops too, not like the little bay scallops, kind of small round ones. These are the big scallop chunks. But for nigiri and sushi, hey, what's up, Wazzy? Welcome to the stream. Yep, you guessed it. We are starting our controversial hot takes today with my opinions on sushi and nigiri. That's where we're starting. So for scallops fall into kind of a similar situation for me with some of the other harder to find seafoods, in that you can go to most grocery stores and get scallops, but ones that you prepare specifically for sushi have to be handled differently. You can't just go to like a Safeway or common grocery store and get regular scallops and slap them on rice. If you do that, you're probably going to get sick. But when it comes to a good reputable place that I trust that serves hotate or scallops, that will definitely be something I go for. As a result, scallops are going up here on A tier. I'm going to put them under hamachi just because they're a bit less common for me to eat. But if I trust the place I'm going to and their stuff's fresh, I will definitely order some of that because scallops are delicious. Some places do a slight sear before they put them on the rice. They're not fully cooked. They're just a little bit seared so they're not totally cold, but I've had them totally raw as well. And again, if the place is fresh, they're delicious. Scallops are great, but I imagine raw scallops are going to be a bit more of an adventurous outing for some people. But again, you go to a reputable place, I highly suggest people try it. And since I always try and poll the chat for comments, for those of you that are watching, if there are any sushi connoisseurs in chat and you've got some favorites, drop them in the chat. I'd be interested to see what you guys are into. Especially for you, Wazzy. I don't know how big of a sushi scene there is up there where you live in Canada, but if you got some favorites, let me know what they are in the chat. Give me some opinions. All right. Next up, we've got Ika, or squid. And this is specifically raw squid for sushi. Now this one is going to be the first one I'm dropping on C tier. And I think for this one, my opinions on raw squid for sushi are probably somewhat tainted by the fact that I haven't had any good experiences at the places I've been to, even the reputable joints that I've eaten at when it comes to raw squid. And I think it largely comes down to texture. Flavor-wise, there's nothing wrong with raw squid. It doesn't have a strong flavor if it's fresh, but all the places I've tried it at, it's been kind of tough and rubbery and slimy in some cases, which I'm definitely not a fan of the sliminess, which is weird because I like cooked squid just fine, or dried squid, but raw squid is kind of a more acquired taste. I think in Japan my experience would be a lot better, but here I'm still gonna put it at C tier. It's not one of my personal favorites. Let's see. Edward, I've eaten sushi exactly once, and I don't even know what kind it was. The thing about sushi, so here's kind of a trip back in time to Uraku's experience with getting into sushi. I mentioned earlier on when we started the tier list that it wasn't until I went to Earth School and befriended some savvy folks there who introduced me to some reputable sushi joints in an area where I lived and showed me what the quote-unquote good stuff was. That was really when I got into sushi. So for me, if someone is going to get into it and try it, they need someone who can kind of curate the experience and choose things for them that are going to fit with their taste without just immediately going for the more acquired tastes and the more out there stuff. Like, depending on someone's temperature when it comes to seafood and fish and whatnot, I would choose which sushi I was gonna, or sashimi types or seafood types I was gonna introduce them to based on that. I wouldn't necessarily go in there and introduce them to my favorites, because not everybody is gonna be as immediately adventurous. And so I think there's a bit of a risk to just tossing people out in the pool. And between that and knowing the restaurants you're going to, you need to sort of be careful when you're trying to introduce someone to sushi for the first time. And most people I've talked to that have had bad experiences were just sort of tossed in and said, hey, here's a bunch of good stuff, you should try it, without tailoring that towards their personal preferences. So that's what I learned in Earth School, because my friends, when they took me to my first good sushi restaurant, instead of just saying, we're going to order everything for you, they said, well, what do you like? And I'm not a picky eater, so I said, well, I'm down for whatever, just give me what you think is good. And that was how I told them to curate the experience. But if I was a more picky person, then I would have told them, here's what I like, here's what I don't like, what do you think I should order based on that? And then, they're more likely to have a better experience. So that's the tricky thing when it comes to sushi, because all it takes is for one bad experience to turn someone off completely. And I've talked to folks that just refuse to get into it because they had one bad experience, which is a shame, but it's an acquired taste. I get it. Anyway, if you guys want to hear more stories about my adventures in Earth School, getting into new and unfamiliar types of food, then that's definitely something I can talk about on these chill streams. So I have quite a few stories. But let's go ahead and move on. Next one, this is another type of sushi. This is salmon eggs. And this one, I'm going to put this one on C tier as well. I'm not a big fish egg person. I don't mind the smaller flying fish type eggs and whatever. It's usually used as garnishes for things like maki rolls or other types of sushi. But the big salmon eggs, I've tried. They tend to be kind of an acquired taste like squid, in my opinion. I can't say I'm a huge fan of that. I'll eat it, but it's not my first choice. And I did see your comment, Wazzy, further up about surf clam. That's Mirugai, I think. That wasn't on this list here. That's the really thinly sliced red and white clam. And it's pretty commonly served on nigiri. I'm surprised that's not on here. Let me look at these. I can't read some of the kanji on here. But I think of the shellfish, we had a couple different types of shellfish. And we've got scallops, but I don't see surf clam. But for mirugai, I like it. I've eaten it before. I haven't had it in a while. But the places I've been to that have had it fresh, it's good. I'd put that one up here on high B tier. Maguro is going to get pushed further down, I think, when it comes to my preferences for tuna cuts. So I would put surf clam somewhere up here, probably after ebi. This particular list, and I could have sworn one of my other favorite ones was on here. You know what? I think I made a mistake. This one here is not cooked shrimp. I kind of didn't pay attention to the kanji at the beginning. This is ama ebi. We're going to rank this one differently. Cooked shrimp isn't actually on here as far as I can tell, which is weird because that's one of the most common types of sushi, or nigiri, because it's easiest to get into. That's weird, but again, cooked shrimp would be here above maguro and B tier. Ama ebi I'm going to rank in a second. I'm going to put that in a different spot. But let's go ahead and move on. This next one, inari sushi. This one is a thin tofu wrapper with seasoned or flavored rice filling on the inside. This one, I'm going to put on higher C tier just because it's not my go-to. I tend to like seafoods or meats in my rolls or sushi. There's nothing wrong with the taste and flavor of inari sushi. It's just not my favorite, not my first choice. Texture-wise, it's fine. The tofu wrapper is kind of firm and has kind of a fermented taste to it. Again, this one's fine. It's just not one of my favorites. I put it pretty mid-tier in the pack here. The problem with this particular tier list, and I looked around a lot trying to find one that I could adapt into this format easily. One, it's all in Japanese, which is okay for some of the stuff that I'm able to read. But some of these aren't even labeled, so I have to kind of guess as to what they are. I could be wrong as to what the original tier creator's intention was, but like I mentioned earlier on, when I rank these things, it'll be based on what I think they are. So that's my best attempt here. So let's see. This next one, the reason why I popped ama ebi down is because it's different. The cooked shrimp, again, is not on here as far as I can tell. But ama ebi's raw shrimp. And I dropped it down to re-rank because I do have some things to say about ama ebi. This one is probably, of all the different types of sushi slash nigiri you can get, to me, ama ebi is the one where you have to know your restaurant the best. Like I mentioned, this is raw shrimp served with the tail on. It's usually prepared. I don't know if they're always live. It's fairly common for them to do that, live shrimp. But it's uncooked, right? And it's served over rice with the tails on. You really need to know your sushi restaurant well and how fresh their seafood is for ama ebi, because it's raw. And because if you go to a place that doesn't have it fresh, you're not going to have a good time. And I that has happened to me a couple times and made me a little more wary. That being said, when I've gone to good places that have fresh ama ebi, fresh raw shrimp, it's top tier. So for me, ama ebi is going to be lower on the S tier, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It's just one I tend to be a bit more selective on because, again, any compromise in quality is going to greatly impair your experience. But this one is probably as acquired a taste as the scallops, maybe even more so because it's got a distinct flavor when it's raw. I like shrimp in general, but my favorite way to eat it is raw from a place I trust. Another thing that's kind of fun about ama ebi, when you order it from most places, because it's raw, usually they will take the shrimp heads and fry them and give them to you for free. Sometimes they'll charge you, or they'll have it listed on the menu as a separate thing. But any reputable sushi joint will give you the fried shrimp heads for free, which is usually nice. I understand for a lot of people, eating fried shrimp heads is probably as acquired a taste as anything else from the seafood side, but I like them. They tend to be really light and crunchy, like a tempura batter almost, but it's not batter. It's just literally the whole thing is just deep fried, and it's crunchy, kind of like a shrimp chip. And I do like shrimp chips. So ordering ama ebi, the bonus in most places is that you get the shrimp heads for free. Okay, I see, Wazzy. You're in a landlocked province. It tends to affect how seafood gets trafficked into restaurants. So that makes sense. That's one of the reasons why I like living near the coast. There's no issue getting seafood. Okay, moving on. We have another cut of tuna, but again, it's not labeled. But from the cut of it, it looks like true toro, the medium fatty belly of the tuna. It's either that or it's regular toro, the fattiest cut. We also have otoro down here. So I'm going to call this one... Oh, no, here's regular toro. There's several different types of the tuna belly cut here. I think this is true toro. True toro tends to be a fairly soft, rich cut of the tuna. Again, this is tuna belly. And it's good. I'm going to put this one up here on A tier. I rate it higher than hamachi. As you start getting these other cuts for sushi, the price is going to go up. And for this one, I think this is regular toro. That's the most expensive cut. We'll get to that one in a sec. But as you go up in the sort of fattiness content of the tuna, it tends to get softer and more rich. And interestingly enough, it gets oily because of the fat content, but it's not like a kind of unpleasant fast food greasy type of oil. It's like a fish. Well, it is literally fish oil, but to me, I think it kind of complements the flavor and texture. So assuming this one's true toro, I'd rank that one pretty high. This next one, I think this is minced tuna in a seaweed wrap, which I have had at least once. It's been a while. I would put this one on B tier. It tends to be more kind of like a pate almost, because it's finely minced instead of being solid slices or fillets. But it's fine. The texture is a different way to eat tuna. I think a lot of places in Japan specialize in different cuts, and they serve them this way. And sometimes you'll get it with, was it uzura, or the quail egg on top, which I've never had at a place here in the States, but it's a real big thing in Japan. But I'd be down to try that. I know I've talked about it off and on here on the stream, but I've never been to Japan. I really would like to go before it becomes even more difficult, but I had plans in the works, and then COVID torpedoed all my plans. So right now, I don't know when I'm going to actually get over there, but I will eventually. Like I said, I owe it to my studies in the language in Earth School, but there's a lot of stuff culturally I just want to check out. The problem is, according to everybody I know who's been to Japan, sushi there blows everything from the West out of the water. So it may very well ruin the experience for me domestically when I go to the source, but that's okay. All right, let's keep moving here. Next up on the list, we have saba. This is mackerel. And this type of mackerel, I believe, is marinated. It's not straight up. And saba is interesting. This one's a bit more of the mid-tier as far as adventurous fish types go. Saba's okay. I think I'd probably put it on low B tier. C tier is going to kind of be reserved for things that I just don't order normally because I'm not a huge fan. B tier is going to be stuff that I'll eat and maybe try occasionally, but wouldn't be at the top of my list. A and S are things that I will always go for, assuming I'm not going to bankrupt myself in the process. But saba's good. It's a bit more of a stronger taste. And firm. Saba, as far as texture goes, is a lot more firm than some of these other fish cuts. So it's a bit more dense, but it's not bad. Oh, Wazi, you've been to Japan but didn't have sushi. Takoyaki fresh is so different. Yes. I may need to look up a tier list for Japanese street foods, since there's a decent amount of them out there. I wonder if someone has put that into a tier list. I'll have to look at that, because you have things like takoyaki, the octopus balls. You have things like taiyaki, which are the little fish pastries with the bean inside. You've got yakitori, or grilled chicken on skewers. You have okonomiyaki, the cabbage pancakes things, which are delicious. I know how to make okonomiyaki. In some places here where I live, we'll do takoyaki. I know one of the Asian markets that I've been to, occasionally they'll have a pop-up thing where they have people come in and make it fresh. And you're right. Fresh takoyaki is fantastic. You have the light, kind of soft pastry-ish dough, savory pastry dough, with a little piece of octopus inside, and then on top it's usually kind of the tangy okonomi sauce with mayonnaise, shredded fish flakes, seaweed. Yeah, that's good stuff. Takoyaki's bomb. Yes, Wazzy, that's another thing that I've heard pretty unanimously from folks that have been to Japan. Convenience stores live up to their actual name when it comes to their function. 7-Elevens, Family Mart, Lawson's, all of those have good food that you can just readily get and eat. It's not like convenience stores in the West or like here in the States where you never go to a 7-Eleven for their food. You might go there because you need to pick up something, or you're getting gas, or you want like a Slurpee. But you never look at the actual consumable food and look at the little hot dogs in the rotating roller things and think, boy, that sounds like a good thing to eat right now. No one thinks that. Hot dogs have been in there for like 5 weeks. But over in Japan, where they actually care, you can get prepared good food from convenience stores. And like, that's the whole point. People are always on the go there. So being able to drop into a place on the corner and get like a regular lunch, that's the whole point of it being convenient. Which is great. I don't see that mentality ever changing here in the States, but that's definitely something I would check out if I went to Japan. All right. Next up on the list of sushi types here. That's right, lonely little hot dog. Nothing good comes from eating gas station food in the States. And God forbid you get gas station sushi, which is a thing. I don't really go to convenience stores very often, but I have seen like their cold cases where they'll get, you know, some outside vendor made sushi there. You need to reevaluate your life if you're getting your sushi from a convenience store, at least in the US. In Japan, sure. I'm sure their convenience store sushi is great, but not in the States. If you see a 7-Eleven in, you know, rural Kentucky, and then they have a little case full of sushi, I would run the opposite direction if I saw that. But that's just one person's opinion. But next up on the list for sushi types, we got salmon. Again, it's not labeled, but I can tell based on the cut what it is. Salmon sashimi and onigiri is top tier. In fact, it is going to the very top of S tier. Salmon is my favorite type of sashimi. It's of all of the different fish types, it's one of the least fishy when it's fresh. And you can usually see one of several types of salmon depending on where you're getting it. You can see king salmon, which tends to be the fattiest and most rich. That's probably my favorite. Atlantic salmon is in the middle. And you have sockeye salmon, which tends to be a bit more firm and a little bit drier in texture and stronger in flavor. But all in all, salmon is tops. I will always order that whenever I go to sushi joints. It's one of my top favorites. That's right, Wazzy. Gas station sushi. That is a thing in some cursed places here in the States. There's always a demand, I assume, which is why there's a supply, but yeah, if you ever visit the States, don't go to convenience store, like gas station convenience stores for sushi. I apologize for making you crave sushi, Wazzy. I had to start off the food tier list with something that I'm somewhat passionate about. But we'll keep moving on here. The next one after this particular tier list is going to be fun. I think we're going to get some more discussion and debate on that one. But this next one on here, again, it's not labeled. And I looked through the other ones, and by process of elimination, I think this one is Thai or snapper. It's either Thai or Kampachi, but I get the feeling they would have labeled if it was Kampachi. So just for the sake of ranking, I'm going to assume this is snapper and rank it as such. And snapper is good. It falls into a similar type of flavor and texture profile like hamachi to me. A little more firm. It's definitely more firm than salmon and some of the more rich cuts of tuna. Maybe not quite as firm as mackerel. But Thai/red snapper is good. And is one of my go-tos when I see it on the menu. So I'm going to put it up here on A tier. A little bit lower. But I feel like if you're a fan of some of these other types of fish, it's worth trying. It's for a little bit of a different flavor, different texture. Yeah, snapper's good. Next up, we've got the first non-seafood one in several entries here. We have tamago. And tamago is egg. This is specifically layered rolled omelet. Sliced thinly and put on top of rice. The way they make this is interesting. It's basically done in layers and then pressed using something heavy into a dense block of egg. And it's sweet. It's flavored with a couple different things. It's got kind of a sweet, savory taste. It's usually used as kind of like a dessert finisher for a sushi course. I will order it whenever because I don't care. Because tamago's delicious. That's going up here at the top of A tier. I actually know how to make this too. I haven't in a while, but I have a tamago omelet pan that's shaped in a certain way to be able to layer omelet. So I have made it before. It's not terribly difficult. It's difficult to get the fluffy texture and then to get it pressed into that kind of brick format. But if you're just doing like a rolled omelet, it's not too hard. All right. Next up, we're going back to cuts of tuna. This is regular toro, I think. And I personally don't know terminology-wise if there's a distinction between toro and otoro. I'm going to kind of rank them differently because I've seen them priced differently in stores. But toro is the highest quality cut of the tuna belly, I believe. It's usually the most expensive from my experience. But oh, get out of here. In my opinion, toro is top quality. I'm going to put that one under anago, sea eel up here. It's going to cost you, but if you're getting it from a reputable place, you're going to get a really soft, rich, kind of meaty flavor with not a strong fishiness to it. And it's going to have kind of an oil content, just like the true toro. But again, if you're going to drop down money on the table for something expensive, you want something good, toro's up there. I definitely would make sure you trust the place you're getting it from, though, so you don't waste your money. But that stuff will cost. I've seen a 2-piece set of nigiri on toro go for like $20. It doesn't necessarily have to be that expensive, but I have seen it that expensive at places. It ain't cheap. In fact, sometimes it's better looking out for deals at a reputable Asian market that stocks sashimi and raw fish, because the blocks of the toro that they'll sell sometimes is much cheaper. It's cheaper per piece than if you're ordering it at a restaurant, but then you have to slice it yourself and whatnot. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a treat. Treat yourself. I'm gonna splash a little bit. Otoro is, again, I don't know the terminology well enough to know if this is really that distinct, but this one being a higher fatty content on the sushi or the tuna cut itself from true toro, which is the middle. As a result, otoro is going to go here in the list. It's good. It's a little more rich and soft, but not quite as rich as the regular toro up here. And I have tried both from restaurants. I think a lot of these more advanced cuts for the tuna belly are driven by your budget more than anything else. Wazzy, my opinion on melon bread. Melon pan? I like melon pan. It's good. I've never had it fresh. Like fresh from a Japanese bakery. But I know the Asian market that I usually shop at, they have packaged melon bread it's shipped out from Japan. I think it comes in frozen, and then they thaw it out and make sure it's not cold and frozen. They shelve it. But it's good. It's kind of misleading because it's not melon flavored in most cases. It's melon shaped with the kind of scored crisscross texture on top. But I imagine if you get that stuff fresh from a bakery in Japan, it's pretty bomb. All right, let's wrap up this particular tier list with the final entry on here. We've got river eel, unagi. Unagi is sort of, to me, and this is just based on my experience talking to other people and watching their forays into the world of sushi. Unagi is kind of like the gateway, I think, for a lot of people into the more adventurous side of sushi. And I think that's because most people, unless you live in a region that is known for eating eel, probably don't readily think of eel when it comes to seafood, which is fair. I know when I first was getting into sushi, I was familiar with eel, but I never had an opportunity to try it outside of a sushi restaurant. But I did, and I liked it a lot. And the reason why I think unagi is a gateway is because, like the boiled shrimp, which again aren't on here, unagi is cooked. It's broiled or grilled. It's a cooked river eel, and it's topped with kind of a sweet, savory sauce similar to teriyaki sauce. It's got a bit more of a nuanced flavor. But you can see eel served on rice like a unagi don, or in slices on nigiri, on just on the rice by itself like this. But I think it's the concept that usually weirds people out more than the actual flavor, because texture wise and flavor, it reminds me a bit of catfish. It's a little more oily, but it's not heavily fishy. And when it's grilled, it's got kind of a smoky flavor, and unagi is great. So I always tell people, just try it. You might like it, and then it sort of is a segue into some of these other ones. So as a result, I'm putting unagi up here on A tier or S tier. It's gonna be at the bottom S tier, but it's one of my personal favorites, and it's really common in fusion type rolls and maki rolls too. But even straight up on rice, like a good grilled slice of river eel, can't be beat. Ah, Wazi, there's a bakery in town run by a little Japanese lady, and I love her. She gives free mochi if I buy a lot. That's cool. So you can get melon pan made fresh there. That's awesome. If I lived near a place like that, I'd go all the time. I need to do that. The talk about street food and stuff up earlier on reminds me that I need to look around on the tier list site for like a Japanese snacks. Maybe that's kind of rolled into street food. I don't know. But I only mention that because you talk about mochi. Mochi is one of my favorite snacks from Japan. And if I feel like buying it from the Asian market when I go, I will. But I also know how to make mochi. I've never done it with filling, with like the red bean paste, but I do know how to make it just straight up from the rice flour. I don't have a mochi pounding machine. I thought about buying one, but then that would just result in me eating more carbs, which I definitely don't need. But mochi is one of my favorite snacks. It is delicious. I do know how to make peanut butter stuffed mochi too, which is, I think that's an American created thing. I think Hawaii might have been the first place I heard of people doing that, where they have just the regular like sweet mochi outside and they put peanut butter on the inside. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually really good. And I know how to make that, but I also like it just straight up or with the bean paste in the middle. Yeah, I need to look up a Japanese snack tier list. Get the feeling there's going to be some stuff on there that I haven't tried. But I think that'll do it for this one. Like I said, this is not an all-inclusive list of everything you'd see on a sushi menu. And there are some things on here that I do like that just weren't included. The omission of boiled shrimp is the one that puzzles me the most, since it's one of the most common. But of the pretty well-known and common types of things you can get on a menu at a sushi joint, I think this is a pretty good selection. But what we'll go ahead and do is I'll leave this one here in case I need to refer to it later. And this one was created by W Denchi 67. on the tier site. I really should credit the people that make these when I rank them on stream here. But we'll go ahead and move on. I've got a few here. We'll see how long it takes to get through them. One thing that's interesting, just for the folks that are tuning in, on Twitter, Wazzy sent me some suggestions for tier lists, and one of them that she sent me was for Candy. Yeah, it's this one with the weird name down at the bottom. If we have enough time, I want to do that one. I think that'll be fun. That's a really big tier list. The video game controller one that Wazzy sent me is also good. I'm going to do that one at some point. But for food, now we're going to get into some more pointed opinions, I think. Let's do fast food. And this is, as far as I can tell, this is a United States fast food list. And United States likes its fast food, so this is actually a smaller list than I was expecting. But it's a lot of the really well-known brands and franchises here in the States. So I figured that would be a good place to rank. I've eaten at the vast majority of places on here. Before we get started, I'm going to separate out the ones that I haven't eaten at. And this one goes from S to F, which I don't know if I need all these tiers, and we'll just leave it the way it is. But some of these are going to be regional specific, because I've heard of them, but I've never seen them in my area here on the West Coast. So let's separate out the ones I've never eaten at. Sonic, I've seen their kind of stupid commercials all the time, but there's no Sonic near where I live. I think I'd have to drive 5 hours away to hit a Sonic. Okay, Wazzy, if you found a Japanese snack tier list, yeah, send it to me over on Twitter. I'll take a look, and then I'll bookmark it for one of our future streams. I have a lot of opinions on food, so today is definitely going to be the start of what may be a somewhat reoccurring theme on these tier lists for food. But yeah, go ahead and send it to me. Thanks. That goes for everybody else tuning in either now or in the future, and you're watching the stream archives. I'm always open to suggestions or things to look at, so feel free to send stuff over. Twitter is probably the best place, or the comments of the videos. I do read the comments, so either of those two places, send me suggestions or stuff we can talk about. All right, I'm gonna shrink this thing down. S to F tier I think is fine. Yeah, it works. All right, let's weed out the ones I've never eaten at. I have not eaten at a Whataburger. I do not live near one. That's a thing in Texas, but I've never eaten there, and I haven't traveled to a place that has it. Mandarin Express? I've never even seen a Mandarin Express. This has to be a regional franchise. Bojangles, I've heard of. Think, yeah, we don't have those where I live here. Cookout. Yeah, Cookout. When I first read that, it's not what I thought it said, but I've never heard of Cookout. We don't have those here. The Varsity, again, I don't know if this is a franchise or regional based one, but we don't have Varsity here where I live. Same goes for Louisiana Kitchen. I've heard of Louisiana Kitchen, but I've never eaten there. Moe's Southwest Grill. It's another one that I've never heard of. Wazzy, U.S. fast food tastes different from Canada. I believe it. I think you're going to see a lot of nuances in any specific country when it comes to fast food. We don't have poutine down here, though, which is a shame because poutine is delicious. I know how to make that, too. Even though it's probably not traditional, like the traditional dish of Canada. Let's see. Sunshine? I've never even heard of sunshine. Some of these are going to be region specific, I think, because this is predominantly, I don't think there's any non-US franchises. Maybe there are. Maybe that's why I haven't heard of some of these. Yes, Edward, you read that exactly the way I did, if that's what you're saying. But we'll try to remain say so. But yeah, that's why I read that one initially. I thought, that can't be right. That doesn't sound like a place I'd go for food. Maybe a fried chicken joint. Anyway, let's see. Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake's another pretty famous franchise here in the States. It just isn't in my area. I think towards the middle and mid-east of the country, you're going to see that more. I haven't traveled to a place that has a Steak and Shake, but I do want to try it since I've heard rave reviews about their food. This next one, was it Firehouse? It's cut off. This is a sub sandwich. Oh, funded by Fireman. I'm going to assume that's Firehouse subs. I've never heard of them. And then, was this Zaxby's? Fried chicken? I've also never heard of them. I have eaten at the rest of the ones on here, so I feel like I can speak to the rest of these. So we've kind of halved our list of places to go. We have a mix of burger and other types of fast food. It's a good selection. Again, here in the States, we got a ton of fast food joints, but this will be a good place to start. The first on the list, we have the omnipresent Jack in the Box. And I feel like Jack in the Box, if I were to rate this maybe 20 years ago, I would probably rate them very low on the list. But in my opinion, Jack in the Box and their menu has risen in quality. Again, we're looking at burger joints here in the States, so it's not like we're going to see a culinary experience. But when it comes to like the low tiers of fast food, Jack in the Box is pretty low. Then they had that E. coli scandal, was in the 90s. And they kind of had to revamp their food handling practices a bit. So I have no issue with Jack in the Box's menu. If I'm out late at night for whatever reason, and I feel like being a degenerate, I will stop at a Jack in the Box. Not my first choice, but not my last. So I'm going to say, how do I want to spread stuff here? I'm going to say B for now. We may have to move stuff around. Some of their sandwiches are really good. Their burgers are kind of I'd say they don't stand out, but some of their other sandwiches, like their chicken sandwiches and other things they do with their experimental menu, I think is noteworthy. I wouldn't go to Jack in the Box for their burgers. Their burgers don't really jump out at me. Wazzy, we do not have a Jack in the Box where you live or in general in Canada. Does the franchise not exist in Canada? I guess it's possible. Alright, next up we have Panda Express. Panda Express is the McDonald's of Chinese food. And I feel like people understand what I'm saying when I say that. Oh, I see. Jack in the Box doesn't exist in Canada, huh? You're not missing much. I will say that Jack in the Box, if you really want to hate yourself and get some of their greasy tacos, their tacos are these kind of flat, thin corn tortilla, beef and cheese, and I guess vegetable tortilla tacos that are sandwiched kind of flat, and then they deep fry the whole thing. So what you get are these really flat, greasy tacos. And don't get me wrong, they're terrible for you, but I'd be lying if I said I haven't eaten them a couple times, just because, again, if it's late and I am in a late night state, Jack in the Box is good for that. But yeah, their tacos are delicious garbage. But Panda Express, going back to Panda Express, the reason why I say they're the McDonald's of Chinese food is because they're as pretty fast food as you can get when it comes to Chinese food in general. And I have eaten at Panda Express. We got them where I live. The one that opened up closest to where I live actually had a pretty good run of. I haven't been there in years, but when they opened, their menu was not different, but it seemed like they used more fresh ingredients. I don't know. It was actually pretty decent, and then I realized there were good Chinese restaurants where I live, so I stopped going there. But I'm putting Panda Express on low C tier. Their food doesn't taste bad. Don't get me wrong. It's not traditional Chinese food by any means, but I've never had an issue with the way their food tastes. The problem is I always feel like absolute garbage after I eat there, and I'm guessing it's on account of the high levels of sodium. High levels of sodium and grease in some of their dishes they serve. Again, it tastes good, but then my system just shuts down. Apparently, this human body is not meant to process some of the stuff they put in their food. So, from a recipe standpoint, it's pretty meh and fine. But yeah, I just don't react well to Panda Express. Next up, we've got Panera Bread. And Panera Bread is kind of a bougie cafe type environment. They do bagels. That's what they were known for. And then for their actual food and entree stuff, they do like soups and sandwiches and that type of stuff. Quality-wise, it's fine. I think you're probably going to get better quality food at Panera versus like a Subway. But I'm going to put Panera on upper C tier. Above Panda Express for sure. What drags Panera down, in my opinion, isn't their food quality, it's their prices. Every time I've been to Panera Bread and ordered something for lunch, like a sandwich, chips, and a drink, it's like 20-something bucks. For like a sandwich, chips, and a drink. More so if you get soup. Their menu is way overpriced to me. And I don't know if that's changed recently. I haven't been to a Panera in probably 2 years. I don't go out to fast food super frequently now because of the pandemic in general, and because I'm trying to eat better. But again, their food is fine. Their bagels are actually really good. But the rest of their menu it's overpriced. I could go get a sub sandwich for a fraction of the price, and it only being like marginally less quality at Subway. But I get the feeling Panera kind of trades off their brand name more than the quality of their menu. It's fine, just expensive. Next on the list, we've got Quiznos. Quiznos, which I can't remember the last time I saw a Quiznos where I live. They used to be common, but they've been shutting down over the last 5 to 10 years. And now I don't know if they're even still in business. But Quiznos was trying to be a direct competitor to Subway when it comes to the sandwich game. And their whole deal was that they had toasted subs, right? Hot sandwiches. Subway's got a mix. You can toast their subs, and a lot of them are cold. Do I remember their mascot for Quiznos? They had a mascot? Clearly, I forgot. Oh. Are you talking about that? What is that? Is that a hamster? Like a rat? What is that? Chat. What is this? This is what you're talking about, right, Wazzy? Is it a mouse? Is it a gerbil? See, I don't watch TV, so I don't see commercials. And back when Quiznos was a lot more prominent, I definitely didn't see their commercials. And if their business is dying, I think it might be partly because of their marketing, because that's haunting. I don't even know what it is. It looks like a really bad meme post. Okay, well, can't say I'm surprised that they're becoming more and more relevant. Eesh, I don't want to look at that anymore. I apologize for making the chat look at bad marketing. 2000s? All right, yeah, that's yeah. You know what's funny? Again, talking about Quiznos being the attempted direct competitor to Subway in the sandwich game, I think Quiznos still got away with having a better mascot after what happened with Subway's mascot, which is pretty horrible when you think about it, but at the same time, it kind of is what it is. Because as far as I know, the weird top hat wearing gerbil monster's not in jail. Anywho, tier list itself, Quiznos sandwiches were good. They were not good for you. They were full of cheese and salty meats, but like it was fine. I would usually feel like garbage after I ate there too. But I'm going to put Quiznos higher than Panera on C tier. Good sandwiches, again, not good for you, but I get the feeling they just couldn't corner the market like Subway did. But we'll get to Subway in a sec. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to place them. But next up, we got McDonald's, the big empire. Good old Ronnie. I don't eat at McDonald's super often. It is rare that I eat there even once a month. One, because I don't live near one stone's throw distance. I have to drive about 15 minutes or so to get to one. Two, Uber Eats in my area doesn't deliver from said closest McDonald's, which is doesn't make sense to me because there'd be a demand where I live. And three, every time I've eaten at McDonald's in the past, I've had the same problem with Panda Express where the food tastes, fine to me, but my system would just reject it outright and I would not be a happy camper the next day. But I haven't had that problem the last couple times I've had McDonald's. So I would say quality-wise, I'm going to put them... I'm going to put them below Jack in the Box. There's a couple things I like at McDonald's that I'll eat. Like, I do like Big Macs. They're a bit of a guilty pleasure. And I do like chicken nuggets and their spicy crispy chicken sandwiches. And their shakes are decent. There are going to be some other burger joints here in the list that are going to rate much higher than McDonald's in my book. But while some people might put the vast golden empire down here like F tier, it's not that bad. Not my first choice, and if I was going to suggest a place to go, I would definitely not put McDonald's at the first entry. If anything, if I'm feeling like being a degenerate, kind of like Jack in the Box, that's the role McDonald's fills for me. In fact, one of my favorite fast food places, which is a local property, it's not on this list here, and it would probably seriously give away where I live if I mention it, but it's a shame. Wazzy, do I live in a city or a small town? If it's too personal, it's okay, just curious if there's a lot of fast food near me or not. I'm fine answering that question. I don't live out in the middle of nowhere. I live about half an hour out from a major city, up kind of in the burbs in the mountains. But most of the standard retail, fast food and stuff is near me. It's not like I live out in the countryside where there's just nothing. So, for me, the biggest chunk of restaurants, fast food, and whatnot's, like I said, about 15 minutes away, one city over. The city where I live is a bit newer, so we don't have a lot of the main retail restaurants. We have a bunch of mom and pop joints and restaurants, but like we don't have McDonald's. Everywhere has a McDonald's. We've got Starbucks. We've got 3 Starbucks. Why do we have so many Starbucks here? But I have to drive one city over for things like McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Burger King, Arby's. A good sushi joint is actually in that one city over. But it just blows my mind that Uber Eats doesn't deliver from those places that are fairly close by. But I can just drive over there if I'm not too lazy, if I really don't want to encounter people. But anyway, McDonald's is going to go on low B tier. It'll probably get pushed further down as we populate the list with other stuff. Moving on, we've got KFC, the Colonel. I have not eaten at a KFC in probably almost a decade. One, there aren't any near where I live. In fact, the nearest KFC that I can think of is probably 2 or 3 cities away. But as far as ranking quality and overall levels of the tier list here, KFC is going on D tier, man. I don't have a super high opinion of them. I'll eat there if like I'm on a road trip or something and there's one nearby. But kind of like some of these other ones, my system does not like KFC. I think their food's too salty and too greasy, and it just absolutely destroys my system. It'll taste fine. I like fried chicken a lot, but I'd be more inclined to make it myself or go to like a Popeyes. There's no Popeyes on the list. Why is that? You'd think there'd be like a Popeyes or a Church's Chicken or something, but no. The only entry that I can see here, I guess Chick-fil-A technically, but for fried chicken proper, I only see KFC, and that's a travesty. There is a pretty reputable, I think it's a national chain, but there is a good fried chicken place where I live that I order from every once in a while that absolutely demolishes anything KFC could make. They do like Cajun fried chicken, but yeah, I don't think it's really a tough sell to put them down here on D tier. Honestly, I don't think we're going to see any F tier restaurants on here. I'm not that mean. We'll see. But yeah. Wazzy says, ew, KFC. Between their weirdly aggressive marketing and the fact that their menu seems to be driven by just like what kind of abominations can we put together and make people buy. Like, you guys remember the Double Down from KFC? I haven't been to one recently, so I don't know if it's still on their menu. But I remember when I was in Earth School and that was a big thing. That was their like cheese and bacon sandwich that used fried chicken slabs instead of buns. And it was like an absurd amount of fat and calories, and then people would, yeah, I never tried one, but I saw that and thought, yep, that's America. Yeah, KFC. Yeah. Next up, we got Subway. Subway, what do we do with Subway? Let's see, Wazzy. Christie's Chicken. I've never heard of Christie's Chicken. I don't think that's a franchise here in the States. At least not on the West Coast, because I've never seen a Christie's Chicken. Here on the West Coast, fried chicken franchises aren't are frequent, or common, I should say. In like the middle of the country in the South, you have a lot more reputable fried chicken chains that tend to branch out over time, but not so much here, which means you're either left with local, like mom and pop type joints, and I can think of a couple that are noteworthy here in my area. But other than that, like your mainstream one's KFC, which, yeah, is what it is. But alright, Subway, I'm kind of conflicted on Subway. I haven't eaten there in a while, And I understand that they're not great, but they're not horrible to me. So I'm going to put Subway... I'm going to put them near the top of C tier. Just because, one, they're cheap. Two, their sandwiches don't necessarily kill my digestive system as bad as Quiznos or Panda Express. But honestly, if I want a sandwich, and this has sort of just been my mentality, especially in pandemic mode, I was immediately suspect of Subway when the pandemic was really hitting its strides. And the idea of going somewhere where someone who really didn't care about preparing a sandwich was potentially going to give me a life-threatening virus. That's probably why I stopped going. But before that, I'd go there every once in a while. It's passable. But nowadays, if I want a freaking sandwich, I'll just make one. And that'll probably be a lot more pleasant than going there. So yeah, I'm going to put them on C tier. It's probably a toss-up between them and Quiznos, honestly. If I could make them tied, I would. Next up, we've got Arby's. Arby's is kind of like the Dr. Frankenstein of meat experimentation when it comes to fast food. And I feel like people fall on one of two sides of the fence for Arby's. They either tolerate them or hate them. I've never talked to a raving Arby's fanatic that absolutely stands that particular fast food branch. For me, they're fine. I'm going to actually put them on C tier above Subway. They have a couple things they do there that I like. Even though they're thinly sliced pseudo meats, weird in concept. Are you talking about Arby's higher on putting it higher than D, Wazzy? That's funny. You guys have Arby's in Canada? There's something that I find interesting about them. I haven't eaten an Arby's in years, but a couple of their things, sometimes it just scratches an itch, man. Like, I think it's because they're different. I fully admit that whatever they put, however they process and create their meats is definitely not natural and probably not good for you. But there have been times where, like, man, I feel like eating a sliced meat sandwich and hating myself. So I'm putting Arby's at the bottom of C tier. In that one city over where all of the fast food restaurants are, there is an Arby's there. And I think I've gone there like once to try one of their sandwiches they were advertising. And it didn't make me sick. In fact, my system doesn't reject Arby's outright like it does with stuff from like Quiznos or Panda Express, which is weird. You would think it would reject it outright, but I don't think I can justifiably, for me, put them on the same tier as KFC, but they maybe edge them out by a millimeter. And there's much better options when it comes to fast food than Arby's. Their Cajun curly fries are good, and I do like their horseradish sauce. That's right, Edward. They have the meats, just don't ask where they came from. All right. We are not really filling out a high level of the tier list yet. I think we'll start pushing up higher as we get a little bit further here, but next up we got Burger King. The foot lettuce people, right? You know, Arby's was promoting like a gyro sandwich, which I never got a chance to try. I don't think they're doing it anymore. But if anything was going to potentially get me to try something off their menu that was new, it would have been that. Problem is, I really like gyros, and I feel like if they did it poorly, it would severely ruin my experience. And I don't live near any Mediterranean or Middle Eastern joints for gyros, so I've just been making my own. Arby's. I told you this is going to be a controversial tier list, but I got to be honest. But back to Burger King. Burger King seems to be among the big players of the fast food. They seem to be always low tier. Like, I've never heard of anyone who likes Burger King over McDonald's or some of these other basic ones. Edward says, did you know that Pusha T wrote the McDonald's and Arby's jingles? Which ones? He didn't write the I'm Loving It one, did he? I do know Pusha T, and if that is pretty funny. Does that mean he wrote the We Got the Meats one? That's interesting. All right, Burger King. Where are we going to put Burger King? We're going to put Burger King on C tier above Arby's. Arby's is probably going to drop down further. There are few reasons. Oh, I didn't know he wrote I'm Loving It. That's interesting. Well, good for him. Obviously, it's worked. But for Burger King, there's a couple things that are noteworthy for me that I would get at a Burger King over some of these other ones, which is why they're not dropped down here in like D or F tier. I think Burger King does the best fish sandwich. Their big fish sandwich to me, which is, I haven't had one in a long time, but that's usually what I'd order when I'd go there. To me, Burger King's fish sandwich destroys McDonald's. I do not like the Filet-O-Fish. I think the Filet-O-Fish is gross. But Burger King's one is pretty good. Their Whoppers are fine. They're all right. I like their Whoppers better than like McDonald's cheeseburgers. That's primarily because you can just get them customized at Burger King. Like I don't like ketchup and mustard on my burgers, and that's standard on McDonald's. But honestly, if I'm gonna get like a legit burger, I'm not gonna go to either of those two places primarily for that. But besides the fish sandwich and maybe their fries, Burger King doesn't really stand out in my opinion. And their chicken nuggets to me aren't as good as McDonald's. Wazzy says Arby's better drop down. Why do you hate Arby's so much, Wazzy? Did you have a bad experience? Let's see. I thought my background music dropped out and couldn't hear it. I just had my volume down low. Wazzy asks, I don't like ketchup on a burger. I should do a condiment tier list would be interesting. Then I can expose myself in 4K even more. To answer your question, I don't like ketchup in general. I haven't liked ketchup for a long time. And I understand it's the most popular condiment for things like French fries and burgers, but no. If I'm going to make a burger from scratch, I'll usually put either, like for a general condiment, I like mayonnaise. So I'll put mayonnaise on a burger and hot sauce, usually. I don't like yellow mustard, like French's mustard or like the basic yellow ones, but I like honey mustards as a condiment. So like I'll put that on like chicken sandwiches and regular, deli type sandwiches, but yeah, I don't like ketchup. So you're going to see a common trend when it comes to stuff like things that may have ketchup on them. And for as far as like fries, again, I've had debates with people over this and they think I'm weird, but that's okay. For dipping fries, I usually eat them plain or I'll dip them in hot sauce. I don't dip my fries in mayonnaise. I think that's kind of weird. But yeah, it's not really a ketchup person. Feel free to mock me for my weird tastes. That's the whole point of these tier lists. Moving on, Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. is based out of California, I think. We have them where I live in the more remote areas, but not in my immediate area. I can't think of a close by Carl's Jr. I can go to. But honestly, I haven't eaten there enough to really have an opinion on their menu. I'm not going to put them in never had because I have eaten there, but it wasn't recent. So I'm just going to put them... I'm going to put them... where should I put them? Yeah, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to put them in never had just because I can't form an opinion. I can't put them anywhere on the list and say they're better than something else when I can't remember what their food even tastes like. But I have eaten at Carl's Jr. and it was fine. Their food didn't stand out to me as far as being different from some of these other places. Like, it wasn't bad. I just can't really rank them compared to these other ones. Alright. Next up, we've got Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen, I'm surprised, still exists. Where's the nearest Dairy Queen to where I live? There might be like 4 cities over for Dairy Queen. I don't live near one at all. I haven't even been inside one probably in 15 years. Their ice cream based stuff is good, but if we're comparing their overall menu to this other stuff, Burger King's not going to rank very high. It's funny. Thinking about Dairy Queen just reminds me of an animation that Wazzy did where she rants about this thing called a dilly bar. And I don't know if that's like a Dairy Queen... Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Are dilly bars like a Canada-specific Dairy Queen thing? Because I don't think I've ever seen them at a Dairy Queen, or maybe I just don't remember because it's been so long. I don't know if we have that in the States. So when I watched your animation, which is really funny, I had no frame of reference, so I couldn't really identify with your visceral hatred for the dilly bar. So maybe they've always been a Dairy Queen thing, but I've never had one. That being said, Dairy Queen, I'm gonna put them below Burger King. Okay, it's possible that they're just a commonplace thing, but in the times when I would go to a Dairy Queen, I'd always get like a Blizzard or maybe one of their chicken sandwiches. So I've never tried a dilly bar. I will just have to take Wazzy's advice that they're terrible. Go watch her animation on it. It's pinned to her YouTube channel. It's pretty funny. But I think Dairy Queen edges out some... I don't think I could justifiably put them higher than Burger King, but if it wasn't for their ice cream, they'd probably be down here, honestly. Their ice cream stuff is good. But I'm surprised Dairy Queen even exists still. I can't think of the last time I saw one. Alright, let's keep moving. Next up, we're getting into the pizza game. There's a couple here on the list. Domino's Pizza. The character arc for the Domino's Pizza anime is interesting because these people were kind of like the Jack-in-the-Box of the pizza realm for a long time, where they're essentially just a punching bag or punchline. Their pizza tasted like cardboard. Their overall menu was pretty lackluster, and no one ever ate at Domino's. But their ownership changed a handful of years ago, and they went and revamped their recipes, and now I think their pizza's really good. In fact, it may be a hot take and a half, but I would rank Domino's over Papa John's now. So I'm going to put Domino's Pizza up here on top of B tier. I may move them up to the bottom of A tier because I don't know if any of these other pizza brands are going to edge them out. I did discover a more local pizza franchise I like better than Domino's because their sauces and stuff are a little less salty. But as far as character redemption arcs. Domino's Pizza was bottom tier, and now I think they've improved a lot. So I'm gonna put them up here on B for now. Wazzy says, opinion on pineapple pizza right now. Are you gonna put me on the spot like that? Okay. I think pineapple on pizza is fine. From a moral and ethical standpoint, I honestly don't care what people put on their pizza. People can put whatever the hell they want on the pizza, and if they enjoy it, that's fine. I do think the contrast of sweet and savory is good, but I wouldn't say that the Hawaiian, the quote-unquote standard pineapple pairing that resulted in the whole debate to begin with, is my favorite. It's okay. Hawaiian pizza's okay. I consider it pretty mid-tier. But, like, pineapple in combination with things that are a bit more strongly flavored, I think is fine. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't gotten, like, a grilled chicken jalapeno pineapple mushroom pizza before. It's not my first choice, but I've done it. It's fine to me. Sweet and savory combination of flavors is fine. Do I feel like dying on the hill to defend pineapple on pizza? Honestly, I don't care. Apparently, I'm at risk of losing support from Wazzy from all my opinions today. That's pretty funny. I just don't understand the intense debate around the moral discussion of putting pineapple on pizza. Because I've talked to people who just don't agree with the concept to the point where they won't even try it. It's not that they tried it and didn't like it. It's that they just don't think it should happen to begin with. But to me, that doesn't necessarily make sense as an argument, because there's no real set rules for what goes on a pizza unless you go to, like, ancient Italy. To me, if it tastes good and you enjoy it, it shouldn't matter. Now, see, okay. Edward says, I remember when those commercials were made to talk about how they change. Yeah, that was the turning point for Domino's, I think. And I think that was at one point when they raised up on the quality standard, in my opinion. And Wazzy says pineapple is gross. So I got a hard disagree with you there, Wazzy. Pineapple is one of my favorite fruits, but not because it's on pizza. I think my favorite way to eat pineapple is at a Brazilian steakhouse when it's been grilled. Grilled seasoned pineapple from, like, a Brazilian steakhouse joint is top tier. It's really good. But I've also had fresh pineapple from places that grow it. Fresh pineapple to me is really good. Canned and artificial pineapple is gross. That's not really reflective of the fruit itself. But it's probably not a super common take to say that the best way to eat pineapple is grilled, but I'm serious. Like, the way they do it at Brazilian steakhouses is fantastic. They basically take the whole pineapple, they skin it, they take all of the outer layer off, and they stick it on a big skewer, and they put it over a grilled open flame, and they season it with cinnamon and what else they put? Maybe like a chili powder. They do kind of seasoning, and they crust the whole thing and sear it, so that when you get it, it's sweet and a little bit spicy tasting. It's great. It's one of my favorite things to get at Brazilian steakhouses, which I haven't been to since the pandemic started, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree on pineapple being gross. You can argue for pineapple as a pizza topping, one or the other, and you do you. But as far as the fruit itself, I like pineapple. Fresh pineapple's great. When I worked in my last job in the kitchen, I used to prep pineapple. That's not fun. Actually, skinning, slicing, and preparing pineapple is not fun. But to me, it tastes good. All right, let's keep moving through the tier list here. We will navigate the landscape of controversial hot takes in our discussion of fast food. All right, Chipotle. Now we're getting into Mexican food. And my favorite Mexican joint, again, it's more of a local franchise. It's not on the list here, so there's no use talking about it. Chipotle, I haven't eaten a Chipotle in years. These people seem to be really constantly marked by food contamination breakouts. That's probably the main reason why I don't go there. But their food is passably fine Mexican food. It's, to me, it doesn't violently destroy my system like Taco Bell. I'm going to put Chipotle in the middle of C tier. I'm going to put them above Panda Express. But honestly, I don't really eat at Chipotle. I don't live near one. In fact, the nearest one's like 2 cities away. If I'm going to go to a Mexican place, there's plenty of other options in the immediate area. But yeah, I don't really have a strong feeling about Chipotle one way or the other. All right, moving on. Got more burger joints coming up. We got Five Guys. Five Guys is a burger chain. They're nationwide, I think. They started popping up here in my state a handful of years ago. I live about 1 city over, and occasionally I'll get Uber Eats delivered from that place. Problem is they tack on like a $20 service charge lately, so I haven't been ordering from them. Five Guys is great. It's one of my favorite burger joints, period. So they're going up here on S tier. I think Five Guys is a little bit distinct from some of the other common burger joints like your McDonald's and Jack in the Box, because they're kind of more of like a diner style burger, a little bit more of a throwback. But I do like how you can customize all of your stuff when you order a burger from them. They have a whole bunch of different condiments and toppings and stuff that you can put on a burger at Five Guys. They give you a metric ton of fries too, which is nice. More fries than any one human needs to eat in any given sitting. But as far as burger joints, there's a couple other ones, like Habit Burger, I'm surprised isn't on here. That's a California-based franchise that's been branching out. I would have put them probably up on A tier. Habit Burger's good. Fat Burger is not on here. They're okay. They're probably going to be a few tiers lower than Five Guys. Like I said, this is a sampling tier list for fast food. It's not all inclusive. There's a lot of chains that are on here. I know PDQ is a big one on the East Coast. They apparently do really good food. But yeah, of all the burger joints, I think Five Guys is probably my favorite on this list. I don't know if they've got Five Guys in Canada. They're pretty well known, so it's possible. Next up, oh boy, we got Taco Bell. Run for the border. I have not eaten at a Taco Bell in probably 10 years. I can't remember last time I ate at a Taco Bell. One, because there aren't any near me. The one that was 1 city over was like a combination KFC Taco Bell, and I think they just closed permanently. I don't know if they ever reopened. Okay. They do have Five Guys in Canada. That's good. All right, where are we putting Taco Bell? I think I'm going to put Taco Bell above Arby's. Barely. When it comes to Mexican food, there are so many better choices that I'd rather go to than at Taco Bell. Like there's an actual like mom and pop traditional Mexican food joint up the street from where I live. If I really want Mexican food and I don't feel like going too far, I would go there. But there's also a fairly well-known chain, at least on this coast, that does Mexican food that is much better than Taco Bell. My problem with Taco Bell's menu isn't necessarily that it tastes bad. It usually tastes fine, but kind of like Panda Express and Arby's and even McDonald's or KFC to some extent, my digestive system outright rejects Taco Bell when I eat it. I'm usually not a happy camper the next day after I eat there. But that combined with the fact that there just aren't any near me, even if I wanted to go to one, yeah, I'd have to say Taco Bell ranks fairly low on the tier list. Edward says, is Taco Bell even Mexican food, though? Well, it's Mexican-ish. Like, it's not traditional Mexican food by any means, but if we're just trying to classify an ethnicity for their food, and it would have to be Mexican. They'd fall in the same umbrella as Chipotle, but Chipotle, I think quality-wise, Chipotle is higher, but you have to balance that against the sheer amount of times they've had to recall stuff for E. coli poisoning. I wouldn't eat it either, honestly, a Chipotle or Taco Bell. Yeah, see, that's the bigger question, Wazzy, is Taco Bell even food? Their meat always seems suspect to me. Kind of along the ways of Arby's. Like the texture and flavor of Taco Bell meat, at least the beef, always seemed like it was some sort of artificial substance that was just really strongly flavored with taco seasoning to get you to not think too hard about it. But yeah, I'm not going to bat for Taco Bell anytime soon. There's much better options that aren't gonna result in a screaming episode on the toilet the next day. Next up, we are, I don't know, I guess they would consider like a burger-ish type place. Yeah, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is not common in my area. They started opening them up about a decade ago, and there's a couple. The nearest one is 3 cities away from me. It's kind of far. I like Chick-fil-A's sandwiches. Their chicken sandwiches and whatnot are good. I think they're probably going to go up here on B tier. Yeah, put them below Domino's. It's not really a factor on the tier list here, but it is noteworthy in saying that I think Chick-fil-A's business, politics, and practices are kind of whack. That's usually what they're in the news for all of their controversial takes about, hiring gay people or something like that. I think that's stupid. But outside of that, food-wise, they're fine. I think they're a little overrated to me because when Chick-fil-A opened in my area, some people I know that were from outside of the local area who liked Chick-fil-A were ranting and raving about how awesome it was. And then I went and tried it, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to drive 2 cities over and wait in a line for an hour just to get a chicken sandwich, but it's fine. It doesn't help that the one that's nearest to me is located in a really bad spot. Logistically, it's on like the corner of a super busy spot in the downtown of a really busy city. So it's because it's positioned right after you turn onto a busy road, the traffic backs up all the way out of the drive-through around the corner of the previous block and gets close to like a freeway on-ramp. Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare. But yeah, Chick-fil-A's decent. It's fine. Again, I don't necessarily agree with some of their politics, but food-wise, they're fine. Next up, we got Jimmy John's. Going back to the sandwich game. Jimmy John's, looking at all the other entries on here, I think I'd rate them as the best sandwich franchise here on the tier list. I'm putting them up on A tier. I don't live near Jimmy John's anymore, but I did previously. When I used to live near Jimmy John's, I ordered delivery from them almost once a week. And it was great because some kid on a bike would show up in like 15 minutes after I ordered food. Now I live a whole city away from the nearest one, so they don't do delivery. I'd have to drive over there to get one, and again, I usually just make my own sandwiches. But Jimmy John's is good. I feel like their ingredients and their menu selection is pretty good. Definitely better than Subway and Quiznos, in my opinion. It's our first A-tier ranked franchise here. I guess so. Yeah, I miss Jimmy John's. I haven't been there in ages. All right, moving on. We've got West Coast staple, especially if you live in the greater California area. You have In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is interesting. Again, I don't live in California, but I have been to California multiple times, and usually every time I'm there, I go to In-N-Out Burger a couple times per trip. This is the local brand that people, I think it started in California as far as I know. This one people rant and rave about as much as Chick-fil-A, in my opinion. In-N-Out Burger is good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here to trash on In-N-Out Burger. I think it's a little overrated, personally. Their whole menu style is simple. They're kind of an old throwback diner style of burger joint. So they don't do a lot of fancy other types of sandwiches and whatnot. But what they do is good. I'm going to put In-N-Out Burger on... I'm going to put on A tier below Jimmy John's. That may be controversial to some people who might put it up on S tier. I think what edges out Five Guys over In-N-Out Burger is the customizability of their menu, because their menus are similar. I don't know if In-N-Out does hot dogs. I know they do that at Five Guys if you like hot dogs. But I think In-N-Out Burger is a little overrated. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I'll go there without hesitation. But as far as preaching the gospel, it's the best fast food ever. It's debatable. I think you're more likely to go to like a mom and pop burger shop and get something better than probably any of these chains. But I know people who swear by In-N-Out Burger. Edward says, have I gotten the In-N-Out secret menu? I think I've tried a couple things off of the secret menu before. It's been a while. Like, I haven't been to California proper in... well... I've been in the Bay Area. It was almost a couple years ago now. It was before the pandemic. Usually when I go down there to the Bay Area, I will eat it in and out at least once while I'm there. Back when I used to go visit people in like Southern California, I usually go there more often. And I think I've had a couple things off the secret menu, but I haven't tried some of the other more outlandish things you can get there. But I think, out of fairness, I'm rating these based on their standard menus, not necessarily the secret ones. And I don't know if there's secret menus on some of these other places. I don't eat at fast food restaurants super often. But yeah, there's some decent stuff on the In-N-Out selection, especially if you take into account the secret menu. Next up, we got Papa John's, the supposed gold standard for pizza for a long time. I think Papa John's has kind of fallen off in recent years. This is outside all of the wacky things that the owner has been in the news for. From just a quality standpoint on their menu, I think Papa John's has kind of fallen down to mid-tier as far as pizza places go. I think, again, this is just my opinion, but I think Domino's is outpacing Papa John's as far as quality now. Wasn't back in the day. Again, they used to be bottom tier, but now, if I have a choice, I would go to Domino's over Papa John's. I like their crusts better than Papa John's. Papa John's is a little too bready for me, but I'd put Papa John's probably upper C tier. I wouldn't say that they're worse in overall quality than Subway. But if we're comparing pizza places, Oh, yeah, there's a couple more. Okay, we're gonna see a spectrum as far as the ratings go for pizza places, but Papa John's to me is not top of the game anymore. That's right, Wazzy. I'm not bready for Papa John's. You can never be bready enough. Looks like we're gonna be rounding out the list with several pizza places, which is good. Next up, we got Pizza Hut. I do not live near a Pizza Hut. Nearest Pizza Hut's 2 or 3 cities away from me, and I don't think they would deliver to my location even if I wanted to. But considering I live literally 5 minutes away from a Domino's, which is where I usually get delivery from, them or that other local chain I mentioned before, the local chain's even closer than Domino's, in fact. There's no reason for me to go to a Pizza Hut. That being said, let's see. I'm going to tie Pizza Hut and Papa John's. I know Pizza Hut tends to get slammed by a lot of people. I've eaten there before. Their pizza's fine. In fact, I like their crust better than Papa John's. They just tend to be kind of on the greasy side. My younger brother loves Pizza Hut. He would eat Pizza Hut every single day if he could. And I keep telling him, I said, there's better pizza than Pizza Hut out there. And he's like, no, I'd rather just go eat Pizza Hut. Okay. That's fine. Good luck with your colon. But yeah, I think Pizza Hut's pretty mid-tier as well. There's so many other better options for Pizza Hut. Or pizza delivery and whatnot. But they used to be even more of a gold standard than Papa John's. Like, you think back to the 90s or so, Pizza Hut was on top. But that was more of like a physical location based franchise and popularity. Now people don't eat at actual pizza places. Everything's delivered. I don't know. To me, both Pizza Hut and Papa John's wouldn't be at the top of my list for places I'd go for pizza. Next up, we got Sbarro. Does Sbarro even exist outside of mall food courts? I don't think it does. I've never seen like a freestanding franchise restaurant for Sbarro. That being said, Sbarro is pretty low quality. A couple times I ever ate there at a mall was pretty underwhelming in general. I'm putting them on D tier. They can be ahead of the Colonel. Wazzy says Pizza Hut ice cream bar. Pizza Hut has ice cream bars? I know they have dessert pizzas. They do ice cream? I don't know. I haven't eaten at a Pizza Hut in probably 5 years. I wouldn't know. This is a pretty mid-tier skewed tier list now that I'm looking at it. A lot of C-tier stuff. Not much at the top. That's fine. Last pizza joint on the list here that we've got to rank is Little Caesars. And if I haven't eaten at a Sbarro or a Pizza Hut in... Well, I haven't eaten at Sbarro in probably like 20 years. It's been forever. I can't even remember last time I was at a mall, let alone eat at one of the lowest tier places in a mall food court. But Little Caesars, it's probably been... Maybe I had some like a work lunch or something. Someone ordered Little Caesars because they were nearby. But as far as the big quote-unquote players in the fast food pizza game, Little Caesars is down there, man. I'm putting them at the top of D tier. I have never been impressed with the pizza at Little Caesars. I think some of their like cheese bread stuff is all right, but if we're comparing pizza, and their specialty thing was like their rectangular pizza or whatever they called it, if you're comparing that to Domino's or even Papa John's or Pizza Hut, if you're going to compare the four on the list here, the big four, Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars. To me, Little Caesars isn't even close to the other three. as far as quality. Like, I remember their sauce sucked, the cheese consistency sucked, the crust consistency sucked. I've never heard of anybody being a hardcore advocate for Little Caesars, which is surprising they even still exist. I don't know where the nearest one to where I live is, but I'm surprised they're even around still. There's got to be a market somewhere. To me, pizza or Little Caesars Pizza is like the Radio Shack of pizza places. And then when I say that, it's because I don't know why Radio Shack continues to exist, but they do. I don't know. Does anybody else have any strong opinions on Little Caesars Pizza? Because to me, I don't even know if they're big enough to be relevant compared to these other ones. All right. Last one on the list for burger joints. I think we will have time to do the candy tier list. I think yeah, let's go ahead and move on. We'll wrap up and see if there's anything else to be said for fast food. Edward says, I don't think I've seen ice cream in a Pizza Hut. Wazzy says, I swear it was a real thing. Maybe it's a Canada thing because as far as I can remember, there was never ice cream in any Pizza Huts I went to here back when I used to go into physical locations. Now, when you say ice cream bar, are you talking about like a packaged ice cream bar or like an ice cream service bar where you go in and get like toppings and other stuff? Because I don't remember seeing either of those two things at a Pizza Hut. The only dessert I remember them selling were their weird dessert pizzas. That's it. But for last entry of fast food, we got Wendy's. The old school style, savage social media branding marketing that is Wendy's. Okay, ice cream buffet. Yeah, that's definitely not a thing at U.S. Pizza Huts as far as I know, Wazzy. Only reason why I say that is because I remember hearing about people who like take their kids to have birthday parties and stuff at Pizza Hut, and they never talked about having ice cream bars there. Now, it sounds like a decent idea, but I've never seen that at Pizza Huts here, at least not where I live. That's interesting, though. All right. Going back to Wendy's, I think Wendy's is going to rate the highest of the immediate fast food places. I put them at high B tier. I like the selection of things you can get on Wendy's menu. Their burgers are good. Their chicken sandwiches are good. Their fries are good too. And compared to some of these other ones, I don't seem to have the digestive complications when I eat at Wendy's versus McDonald's or Jack in the Box. But I don't live near a Wendy's, so I don't get a chance to go there anytime soon. All right, what is it now, Wazzy? You don't like Wendy's? Oh, you're a big advocate for Wendy's, I see. Yeah, part of the problem is I don't get a chance to eat at Wendy's very often. Back when, again, before the pandemic times, when I was having to drive to a physical location for my job, we worked pretty close to a Wendy's, so we'd go there for lunch every once in a while. In fact, that was the only decent burger place in the immediate area, so we usually go there. So, to me, again, I think of all the other ones here, even Chick-fil-A, which is not a dedicated burger place. I think Wendy's has the best menu. Their menu selection, I think, is better than Jack in the Box and better than McDonald's. And Burger King is really not in the running at all. But as far as dedicated burger places, that I'd consider S tier, I would probably go to Wendy's if I live near one. But again, the nearest one is 3 cities over from where I live now. Five Guys is closer, but I pretty much only get burgers from Five Guys. It just happens to be one of my favorite places in fast food in general. In-N-Out, I think In-N-Out overall rates higher for me than Wendy's, but it's location based and we don't have them here. So it's really more of a special type deal. That's funny though. Domino's is better than Wendy's, quotes before disaster. To me, it's kind of hard to compare them because they're different types of food. If anything, and I'm not trying to backpedal on my ratings. My ratings are whatever it is I rate. On this tier for B tier, I think Wendy's and Domino's are tied. They're just, I can't physically make them the same ranking here because they're in order. For pizza, I'd say Domino's is probably the best out of all of the ones here. For burger type places, with the exceptions of these two standout ones, I think Wendy's is the best of the ones we've compared here. So really, these two are tied at the top of B tier. I don't know if that necessarily changes your opinion since you said it's S tier, but that's fine. Like I said, we're doing hot takes today. If I just agreed with everything the chat said, then it wouldn't be a very hot take. In fact, it'd be a very cold take. First Raid Shadow Legends, now this. Well, I never claimed to be perfect. I knew that pineapple on pizza question was going to come up. It always comes up in discussions like this. But unlike some other people, that's not really a hill I'm willing to die on. I'm really more indifferent than on one side or the other for the pineapple discussion. But I will advocate for pineapple as a fruit outside of the pizza discussion because I think fresh pineapple's good. And I should post this on Twitter. That way people can publicly shame me on Twitter for my terrible opinions. These are pretty easy to save, so I think I'll keep them handy. Edward says, "Bruh, she was so upset about the raid." That's fine. Again, I don't think it's a wrong opinion to not like Raid Shadow Legends. I think it's a common opinion to not like them. I'm not up here advocating that everyone go join and play Raid. I just said I play the game. That's fine. I will do my best to be as honest as possible with you guys. I'm not gonna try and pretend when it comes to things that I do or like. That's what these tier lists are for. It's not to give popular opinions. It's just to give my opinions. That's fine. You guys can roast me as much as you want. Like I said before at the beginning of the stream today, two things that tend to be really hot topics when it comes to opinions, it's like food and anime. So if I really wanted to test the limits of how much people are going to get on me for my opinions and potentially cancel me, I could do like an anime ranking tier list. The problem with the ones that I saw here on Tier Maker is they're a bit more recent. And the majority of the anime that I've watched was really more in the late 90s, 2000s up to the 2010s, and then nothing for a while. And then I started up again in the last 5 years or so, but I don't watch nearly as much as I used to when I was in Earth School. So it's like, one, I'd have to find a tier list that includes stuff I've seen, and then I'd have to rank it. But most of the ones I have seen don't have really comprehensive lists. So as much as I'd like to get my terrible opinions on anime out there so I can get canceled, there's really not a lot. I'd have to make my own. Now, what I could do, and you guys can tell me if it's something you want me to talk about on one of these chill streams, I could put together a full my anime list of everything I've watched that I can remember. And I could go through that whole list with you guys and tell you my thoughts on everything that I've watched and ranked. Oh yeah, Wazzy, I know I could make a custom tier list. That's a lot of work. If I went and grabbed images and whatnot for everything I've seen, it'd be a massive list and it'd just take forever. But if I did a my anime list thing, it puts everything into a list and you can give it rankings. So it might not be in a tier list like this where it's, you know, S through F. It's a numerical scale there. But I could do something like that if you guys really want to know what I think about anime. Problem is, if it's more contemporary stuff, I haven't finished or watched a lot of stuff that's on now. I currently am, well, the last thing I finished was Castlevania on Netflix. Really liked that. I watched Yasuke on Netflix. I was pretty lukewarm on that. I've started a lot of series for anime that I haven't quite finished yet. Like I'm on JoJo Part 5, but I'm about 2/3 of the way through it and haven't finished it yet. And I really need to finish it before Part 6 comes out, because the internet is going to be full of spoilers once it comes out, and I really don't want to get spoiled on JoJo since it's one of my favorite series. I also haven't watched the last 2 seasons of Attack on Titan. I haven't seen the second season of One Punch Man. I'm behind on a lot of stuff. So a lot of big franchises and anime that are out now I haven't seen the entirety of. And a lot of the ones I have seen the entirety of are older. Wazzy says, I love Jolene. She's my favorite. Yeah, I haven't read a lot of the JoJo manga. If I had, I would be ahead of all the stuff that's coming out. I read parts 1 and 2, and then once it started coming out, I just been watching everything in anime form as it comes out. My favorite part is definitely 3, Stardust Crusaders. My favorite JoJo character of like the Joe Star lineage, that's a tough one. It's probably a toss up between Jotaro from 3 and Joseph from Part 3. Hard to say. I like Josuke, and Part 5 is good too. Is Giorno Giovanna. Let's see. The latest I've seen is SK8. Chainsaw Man. Yeah, I've heard good things about Chainsaw Man. I'm gonna probably check that out when it comes out. The problem is I don't have a lot of time, and when I watch shows, I tend to watch them in large chunks. So unless I'm prepared to lose like an entire day watching just a ton of episodes of something, that usually means I can't get other things I need to get done. So it takes me longer to get through content. And if I get distracted by something else, then I'll pick something else and not finish other things. As a result, I'm like halfway through a ton of anime series that I need to go back and finish. All right, let's get the candy tier list loaded. But yeah, I mentioned before on one of the other tier list streams that I'd be down to talk about anime. I'm just need to figure out what format would make most sense. If you guys want to hear my thoughts, let me know. I can put some stuff together for that. And talk about controversial opinions. I'm going to get canceled over my thoughts on anime way more than my stuff on fast food. Alright. We've got candy now. This tier list was created by Is Your Card the 3? And this was sent to me by Wazzy. So once again, shout outs to her for providing the tier list. Alright. There's definitely going to be some stuff on here that's probably regional. that I have not tried. So let's weed out everything that I haven't tried first. I'll shrink this list down a little bit. Wonder Bar. I've never heard of Wonder Bar. That sounds European, maybe German. Mr. Big. I don't know what that is. Maynards or Maynards? What is that? Look kind of like Lifesavers. I've never heard of Maynards. So we'll put that here. Let's see. Pez. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Henry. I've tried. Don't remember anything about. So I don't know how I'm going to rank that. This is... what? Saltwater taffy? That's what that looks like. Okay. Smarties. Pocky. Lots of Pocky. Ring Pop. Lindt chocolates. This has a lot of Canadian candy. Okay. Yeah, you're going to have to point out the Canadian ones. I think Caramel is Canadian, right? I don't know Canadian candy too well. I've only tried a couple things that have made their way down here from folks that have been to Canada proper. Let's see. Yeah, Maynard's again. Coffee Crisp. Read that. Some of these other ones are not necessarily brand. They're more of a generic product that I can speak to. Air O. Don't know what that is. Rockets? Is that what that says? Looks like a Smarties tube. Are there no Necco wafers on here? Some of these images are kind of small. I think I can read most of them. Yeah, I don't see Necco wafers on here. That's a shame. Oh, Rockets are Smarties for us. Okay, because these Smarties are these the chewy ones? All right. We'll put these on the list. I'll just remember when we get there. All right. I think that's... Smarties are chocolate? Oh, okay. Then I haven't had those. Are Smarties Canadian? If so, then that's a different type of product than what I'm used to. Yeah, the Smarties here are what you guys have for Rockets. I don't see... I think my favorite candy is not on the list here. Just looking through... Yeah, my favorite candy's not on the list. What's up with that? My favorite candies are lemon heads. They're one of my favorites. Not my all-time I'll eat nothing else favorite, but S tier candy for me is lemon heads, and those are on the list. That is so sad. I don't know. I kind of don't want to do the tier list now. They snubbed my favorite candy. All right, well, we'll soldier on for content, but what's a lemon head? Lemon heads are these little round yellow lemon ball things. They have big ones and they have small ones. The ones that I usually buy are like little, like 1/4 inch diameter balls. They have kind of a hard, chewy-ish outer like lemon part, and the inside's like a sweet lemon core. So they're tart on the outside and sweet in the middle. They're kind of like the super lemon Japanese candies, but they're not totally hard. They've got like kind of a softer outer core that's a little chewy, and the inside is like a sweet hard candy. Edward says, "Oi, mate, how about a taste of Maynards in it?" Are those European? I have no idea. I've never had a Maynards or Maynards. I've never had any Nards. I have to rely on some of you folks from other countries to tell me where some of this stuff is from. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I can speak to everything else on here. Is there no... Is there no Three Musketeers on here either? There's no Mars. There's no Three Musketeers. Three Musketeers wouldn't be the top of my list, but I would definitely rank it. Mars bars, they're okay. They're just caramel, like a caramel Snickers, essentially. They're all right. Interesting. All right, first up, Nerds. Nerds are fruit flavored, hard candy with like a crunchy inner shell. I like Nerds. I haven't had them in forever, but I'd probably put them high B tier. They're messy. They get everywhere, but they're good. They come in these little boxes. I've seen them in the larger like theater boxes. You just dump them in your mouth like a glutton. Hershey's bar next up. Like the standard Hershey's chocolate bar, I don't think I'd ever buy one of those just to eat on its own. They're good in s'mores, and the individually wrapped ones are alright. This is milk chocolate. I think Hershey's are pretty basic. Like the regular Hershey bar is kind of basic to me. When it comes to flavors of chocolate, you can do much better than Hershey's. I wouldn't exactly say they're necessarily the gold standard for chocolate. Again, in s'mores, they're good, but I would never go out of my way just to get a Hershey's thing straight up. Wouldn't say I'd have to drop it down to D. I don't even know where I'd put anything on the D tier here. That'd be something I really don't like. Black licorice, which I don't see on here either. Black licorice would be like D or F tier. I can't stand the taste of black licorice. But it's not here, so can't rank it. Next one, gummy cola bottles. So for full disclosure here on my opinions, I really like gummy-based candies. Fruit-flavored gummies are one of my favorites. There's a lot on here. I don't see... Are gummy bears on here? They're probably on here, right? Yeah, down here. The green gummy marshmallow frogs and the blue marshmallow gummy sharks are some of my favorites. And cola bottles are good. I put them up here on B tier. I don't necessarily go out of my way to buy them, but I do like them. Next up, Lifesavers. These are the hard ones, not the Lifesaver gummies, right? In the tube. Lifesavers hard candy, it's fine. I'd say, again, I never buy them. But if I had them on hand for whatever reason, I wouldn't say no. They're fine. Next up, Skittles. Skittles are good. I think my favorite flavor of Skittles is probably the original. Berry is good. This purple one is berry flavored. Let's put berry Skittles on A tier. And I'm probably going to... Or B tier. Top of B. And we're going to put the regular ones probably on A tier. Let's see. Next up... I have to kind of guess as to these packages based on what it looks like. This looks like white chocolate Kit Kat. I really like white chocolate. I don't know if that's going to be controversial in opinion, but I like white chocolate more than milk chocolate. Kind of depends on what I'm eating, what kind of product I'm eating. But I do like white chocolate a lot, so I'm going to put white chocolate Kit Kats on A tier. I've never seen this, in fact, on the shelf that I can think of. I've seen white chocolate Kit Kats in, like, the million mini packs, where you get, like, a bag and it's a bunch of the mini size ones that are individually wrapped. I've seen the white ones in there, but I've never seen them in a standalone package before on the shelves. Like, I know in Japan, they have a bazillion flavors of Kit Kat, and I'd like to do a thing where I try all these different flavors of Kit Kats from Japan. But here, it's pretty much just dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. And I've never seen milk chocolate on its own. I'd buy it. Next up, Sour Patch Kids. And that's a pretty popular one. I know my brother really likes Sour Patch Kids. They're fine. You can't eat too many of them though because of the sour coating will cut your tongue. I'd put Sour Patch Kids above cola bottles. Probably below Nerds for me. The blue ones are my favorite flavor of the Sour Patch Kids. Next up, Fun Dip. Wow, I haven't had Fun Dip in a long time. I can't even remember the last time I saw that on the shelf and thought about buying it. Fun Dip is the one candy where it's like packs of fruit flavor powder like Pixies. Wazzy, are Airheads on the list? Yeah, they're over here. We'll get to Airheads. I got some opinions on Airheads. But Fun Dip for me is really more of a gimmick than anything else. It's got the fruit flavored powder and then the white candy stick thing you dip into the powder and then you lick it off of the stick. This might be the controversial opinion for this one, but I always like the taste of the little white chalk stick more than the actual fruit powder. To me, Fun Dip is trading off of a gimmick more than actual quality, so I'm putting it on C tier. It's fine. I think it's more nostalgia driven for people than anything else. As a grown old adult, I don't know if I'd ever buy a Fun Dip off the shelf and eat, but if they sold little soap chalk sticks on their own, I'd probably buy those. Next up, we've got Caramilk. Caramilk is Canadian, right, Wazzy? Isn't this from Canada? We don't have... I think I've seen Caramilk occasionally on the shelves where I live. It's not super common, but I think I've seen it. When I tried one, it was because some people I knew went to Canada and they brought some of this back. I think that's where it came from. But I liked it. It was really good. In fact, it was miles ahead of the Hershey bar when it came to chocolate stuff. So I would put Caramilk... I'm going to put it up here, probably near the top of B tier. I haven't had one recently. It's been a long time, but it was good. And I think, is this one filled? Is that the caramel filled on this one? I think there's different types. I think the one I tried was a regular one. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out next time at the store. I'm pretty sure I've seen them. They're just not very common. Alright. Next up, we got Push Pop. Push Pop, to me, is going to fall in the same category as Fun Dip in that it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick product. Push Pops were like the hard Jolly Rancher candies that were in a tube. And then you push it up to, you know, suck on them like a lollipop. But when I seem to remember people eating these, the problem was, like, over time, it would just get gross. Like, the concept of it is kind of novel, but it's really just a hard candy in a cylinder that you can put away when you want to eat later, and it just gets progressively more disgusting. I have no real nostalgia attachment to Push Pops, so they're going here. Next up, we've got Cadbury Cream Eggs, the seasonal diabetes bombs that come around every Easter. These are a hard chocolate outer shell with this, like, what's the inside? It's not nougat, right? Is it like a cream fondant, almost like inner filling that looks like an egg yolk and egg white? I like Cadbury Cream Eggs. I can't eat too many of them. They're just ridiculously sweet. So I'd put them up here on lower B tier. When it comes to Easter every year and I go to the store in the impulse purchase section of the supermarket aisle, I might pick up one or two for the season, eat one, and then eat another one for the end of the season. Like, yep, that tastes unhealthy. Moving on. It looks like they've got the seasonal stuff grouped together here because these Cadbury mini eggs are also a seasonal thing. There are two varieties of the mini eggs I've seen. They're like a hard candy shell with chocolate in the middle, and they have milk chocolate and white chocolate. I like the white chocolate ones more. Like I said, I like white chocolate. But the milk chocolate ones are fine. I think I'd probably put them here. I don't go out of my way to buy them unless the white chocolate ones are in stock, but they're fine. Edward says, "Is that the egg that chokes babies?" No, I think you're thinking of the Kinder Surprise eggs. Those are the ones that have like the prizes inside them. They're similar to the Cadbury ones in that they're a chocolate outer shell, but they had like toys or something on the inside. That's different. The Cadbury cream eggs are filled with like an egg cream. There's nothing inside them that can like fall out and kill people. Yeah, it's the Kinder Surprise eggs, which were banned in certain countries. I've seen them on the shelves here. I don't know if they changed the way they package them or what. But I have seen them on the shelf. They're like a little white and orange wrapped thing. I think Europe is where they're banned. I don't think they're banned here in the States. I don't know. You would think something like that would be banned, or maybe they're just other things more likely to choke people in the States than toy eggs. But yeah, that's a different product and brand than these cream eggs, Edward. Cream eggs will just give you diabetes. They probably won't kill you right away. All right, moving on. Kit Kats. These are the regular garden variety Kit Kats. I like Kit Kats. They're good. It's a good chocolate-based candy bar. I like the wafer. The wafer texture is nice. It's a little different than some of the other ones. I'm gonna put Kit Kats on upper B tier. It's gonna jump over the caramels just because I've had them more readily. I'll have to think about this again when I've got more experience with caramels, but Kit Kats are good. White chocolate ones to me are better than the regular ones. And I'm not a super huge fan of the dark chocolate Kit Kats. They're not on here, but the Japanese green tea ones are also really good. They love their flavors of Kit Kat. Next up, we got Dots. Dots are these little like dome-shaped gummy things with different fruit flavors. They kind of have a similar texture to Swedish Fish, maybe a little more chewy. They're fine. I like fruit flavored candy, so I'd put Dots after Sour Patch Kids, ahead of cola bottles. I don't eat these terribly often, but I have enjoyed them. I remember in Halloween candy packs, there'd be little mini boxes of Dots. That's where I remember eating them. Like when people I knew would hand out candy and they'd have those big like bowls full of Halloween candy for all the kids, I'd go and steal the boxes of Dots because they're good. Next up, we got Pez. Pez are good. They're not something I readily consume. I do like the individual packs. They're fruit flavors. I'm going to put Pez behind Dots. Edward says, Dots are like tooth glue. Yeah, they're chewy. If you have any sort of orthodontics, don't get those because they'll rip the braces off. They're kind of similar in texture to, was it Juju Fruits? I think it's made by the same company too. They're just a slightly different product. But yeah, I'm going to put Pez down here. They're fine. They're a little chalky, but they're good. I think the whole Pez dispenser things are a bit more of a gimmick. But candy's fine. Next up, This isn't a branded product as far as I know. These are the sour rainbow belts. Usually like bulk candy stores like a sweet shop or was it Candy Factory or Sweet Factory. You see in malls with the big bulk bins that you go and use tongs to fill a bag that they weigh, and you hope all of the little kids haven't spit in all the bins. That's where I've seen these. They're fine. I'm going to put them above Dots, below Sour Patch. I think, I don't know, rainbow ones, I can't think in my mind what they taste like. Like a kind of like a fruit punch flavor. I think I like the strawberry sour belts better. I don't know. I haven't had them recently, so I couldn't tell you. Next up, we got Reese's Pieces, the preferred candy of E.T., right? That's where they got famous from. These are candy-covered peanut butter candies. And I like peanut butter. It's one of my favorite flavors. So I'm going to put Reese's Pieces up here on A tier. I don't eat them super often. In fact, I had bought a couple like 3-pound bags because I saw them on Amazon. And it took me about 5 months to eat one of them. I have another one that's not unopened, just sitting in my cupboard. And it's been ridiculously hot where I live the last month or so. So hopefully it hasn't melted into one slab of candy and peanut butter and sadness. But I do like Reese's Pieces. They're good. Next up, Starburst. Chewy fruit candies. Well, I haven't had Starburst in a long time. They're good. I think I'd probably put them below Sour Patch Kids. These are the regular flavor. These are oh no, this is berry flavor. The regular ones for Starburst are down here, I think. I don't know. They're probably gonna rate in the same tier. They're fine. Starbursts are a little waxy in texture, but they're all right. Next up, O. Henry. I mentioned this one earlier. I can't remember what kind of candy bar O. Henry is. If it's like a caramel and peanut or what. So I have had them. I just don't remember what they are. So I'm going to put them down here. I can't accurately rank something that I don't remember. Next up, we've got Airheads. This is the one Wazzy was asking about earlier. Oh, O. Henry's peanut and chocolate. Okay. Yeah, I can't remember last time I had one, so I'm just gonna leave it down here. I don't have an opinion on something that I can't even remember. But Airheads. There's got to be a reason why you're asking about this one. 'Cause I know Airheads are pretty popular. I'll put them on D tier. Next up, we got Tootsie Rolls or Tootsie Pops. They're pretty unremarkable. I'd put them on C tier. Ah, I was right. All right, let me back up for a second. I'm not done talking about Airheads. I wanted to see what Wazzy's reaction was going to be. My thought was she either really likes or really hates Airheads. It's going to be one of the two. And it looks like she's not happy with the fact I put them down here. So I actually don't have a strong opinion on Airheads. I haven't had one in a long time, but their consistency is kind of similar to taffy, maybe not quite as chewy and stringy. They're like a soft fruit. I don't even know what you'd call that. It's taffy-esque or taffy adjacent. But what's neat about Airheads is that there's a variety of flavors. I remember the white ones and the red ones. Or there's like a yellow fruit punch, or not yellow, orange, like a fruit punch one. But as far as where I'd actually rate them, Airheads are good. I'd actually put them above Sour Patch Kids because they don't destroy my mouth. So they're going to go up there on the tier list. Not my first choice. I can't remember the last time I had one, but they're good. I don't know if Wazzy says they're S tier, but they're definitely good. They're fine. Blue is like blueberry. Is it blueberry? Green is apple. I was just talking to someone about Airheads recently, and yeah, they're still around. I just haven't had one in forever. That's funny. And just so people are aware, I'm not rearranging my tier list just to not upset Wazzy. I was just wanted to see what her reaction was to putting it down here. So yeah, true ratings up here on B tier, under nerds. Like I said, I like fruit flavored candies in general. Tootsie Pops are down here just because I think they're pretty basic and unremarkable. So I don't really have anything else to say on that one, but yeah. Airheads are fine. Next up, we got Everlasting Gobstoppers. These are the Jawbreaker hard candies. These are fine too. Hard candies are pretty mid tier in general for me, mid upper tier. I'm gonna put them higher than Lifesavers. I can't remember the last time I had a box of these, but if I were to think of hard candies I'd be likely to try or pick up just on an impulse, I'd pick them up over Lifesavers. Milk Duds. Milk Duds are those chocolate-covered, kind of chewy caramel candies. You see them in theaters. They're like $10 for a box. Milk Duds are fine. They're not my first choice, but they're pretty okay in my opinion. I'm gonna put them below cream eggs. Next up, this is what I assume is saltwater taffy. Again, not branded. This is just a picture of a bag of saltwater taffy. Saltwater taffy, again, it's fine. I think I like that more than Lifesavers. I haven't had any in a long time. That's kind of a thing where you go to like a small town and they have a little corner candy store where their specialty is different flavors of saltwater taffy. That's been my experience with them. That's fine. Skittles. This is the original flavor of Skittles, which I like more than the berry variety. So I'm going to put these above the berry variety. I'll put them above caramel. I almost feel like there needs to be a different tier list for fruit candies and a different one for chocolate, because putting them together kind of skews the ratings a little bit. But that's fine. Next up, we got Pop Rocks. Pop Rocks, well, I haven't had Pop Rocks in a really long time. Those are the candies. They're different fruit flavors. You put them in your mouth and they crackle and pop because they're the way they're made. Pop Rocks are kind of more of a gimmick to me. They kind of fall down on the tier with Fun Dip and Push Pops. That being said, the taste is decent, but aside from the gimmick, they don't really stand out in my opinion. And they absorb moisture from the air really fast. If you open them, you have to eat them really quickly, because if you try and seal the package, they kind of just absorb moisture out of the air and then they get gross and they don't pop. Yeah, I got no strong opinions really on Pop Rocks. Next up, oh, this is going to be potentially polarizing, I think. Candy corn. I've talked to people that are either for or against candy corn. They're not really in the middle. Some people love them, some people absolutely hate them. I'm pretty indifferent. I don't dislike them, but I wouldn't go out of my way to eat them. If they happen to be on like in a candy bowl in the fall when candy corn is back in season around Halloween, I'd eat them. Again, I don't have strong preference. I'm going to put them bottom of B tier. That's fine. Next up, Kit Kat. What is that? What kind of Kit Kat is that? I can't tell. It's a flavor I haven't tried, so I guess I'll leave it here. I don't know if it's the playing the neutral card so I don't get canceled. If you're talking about candy corn, I really don't have a strong opinion. I don't hate them. I don't love them. I'll eat them. Like, some people lobby really hard for candy corn. Like, they think it's the greatest thing ever. I think they're really sweet. If you eat more than just like a few of them, they get really syrupy and kind of cloying in your mouth. So I'll eat them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to buy them, and I don't hate them. So really, I have a middle of the road opinion. I don't know how aggressive the cancellation mob is over the candy corn debate. But I'm not going to take a centrist opinion just to avoid causing problems. If I did that, then I wouldn't have answered the question about pineapple on pizza. I would have said I had no opinion, which is not true. But yeah, I don't know. The candy corn debate can rage on. I really don't care. I'll eat them if they're around, but I'm not going to go and buy them. Sour Skittles, that's what the green packages. They're fine. I'm going to put them below Sour Patch Kids. Flavor-wise, they don't really jump out at me. They're kind of like the Skittles equivalent of Sour Patch Kids. They're fine. Next up, Strawberry Pocky. Strawberry Pocky is good. Wazzy says, you're also pretty neutral on the pineapple one too, though. I don't know. I said I wasn't willing to die on a hill for the pineapple pizza debate. But when asked if I put it on pizza, I said, yeah, I'd put it on pizza. And then I said, I really like pineapple as just a fruit outside the pizza discussion. But again, when it comes to food preferences, I don't really see the point in dying on any of those hills. And I definitely don't think it's a moral argument when it comes to whether or not you like a food or something on something else. Edward says, Raku, if you don't exactly agree with me, then you are literally an evil person. Ah, I see. That's the Twitter mentality. That's why these tier lists are fun. It's a good discussion about opinions and preferences. Tune in next time where we do nothing but talk about politics on stream. We'll do a politics and religion stream where I talk about my thoughts on all of those things. I'm doing the VTuber career end speed run any percent. Alright, where were we? We were talking about candy corn? Okay, that's good. Sour Skittles, that's good. Wazzy says, Edward's right. Your morality as a human depends on your hot takes. Well, that's why I'm not a human. I think hot takes are interesting, though. Not necessarily every hot take is justifiable, but when it comes to stuff like this, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it's something that's you're going to lose your reputation over unless the cult of candy corn is really offended that I don't think it's S tier, or the anti-candy corn cult is really offended I don't think it's F tier. I don't know. Let's move on. We've still got a decent chunk of these things to get through. This is Strawberry Pocky. Strawberry Pocky is great. I think Pocky as a snack in general is pretty good. I think strawberry is probably my favorite, and then chocolate would be after that. There's a whole bunch. We'll get to them in order here. Yeah, I'll buy a box of these strawberry ones from the Asian supermarket every once in a while. They're good. Usually impossible to not eat a whole box in one sitting, but that's really more of a personal problem. Hershey Kisses. There's a lot of Hershey Kisses flavors. This is just the basic ones, the regular ones. They're okay. I'm going to put them on upper C tier. Some of the flavored unique ones that they made are really good. Like I like the white chocolate peppermint ones they do around Christmas. Those are good. A long time ago, I swear I didn't just imagine, they had coconut, like white, like a chocolate coconut Hershey Kiss. Those are really good. I don't think they make those anymore. But the regular ones, they're pretty middle of the road, pretty meh to me. Next up, chocolate Pocky. I'm gonna put that one tier below. Think as far as chocolate snacks go, the reason why I rank that higher than regular Kit Kats is just because there's a bit more variety. You have the biscuit stick flavor, and then there's the chocolate's a bit lighter. I do like the mix for Pocky. The cookies and cream one is really good. I tried that not too long ago. I like that more than the chocolate. It's got kind of a lighter flavor. It's almost got like Oreos mixed in. They've got so many flavors of Pocky. If you want a good time, go check out well-known YouTuber and voice actor Sungwon Cho, or ProZD. He has a regular occurring series where he ranks different types of food, snacks, all sorts of stuff. And he did one on Pocky and Pretz. That was pretty funny to watch. He tried like 30 of them. A mad lad. But yeah, cookies and cream are good. I think it's just those three. There's a billion flavors of Pocky. Next up, Swedish Fish. Swedish Fish are, what is that? Cherry? What's the default flavor? They're red, I know that. Swedish Fish are fine. I think I would probably rate them, I'm going to put them above Starburst. Not my first choice of candy, not one I buy often, but if they're on hand and around, I'll eat them. They're fine. Similar in texture to Dots, maybe a little softer and less chewy. Next up, Whoppers. These are the chocolate-covered malted milk balls. Whoppers are okay. Again, not my first choice. These are going to be a little bit lower on B tier, I think. I'm going to put them below Saltwater Taffy. These I remember in Halloween candy packs too. You have little tubes of like 3 of them at once. They're fine. The malted kind of light, airy texture in the middle, I think, is pretty distinct from a lot of other types of chocolate candies. I think I'd like it more if it was in like a wafer bar than just little pellet balls, but they're alright. Next up, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I mentioned that I like chocolate, not chocolate, I like peanut butter. Chocolate peanut butter is a good combination. That being said, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, I can't eat too many of them. I usually can eat one and be good, even though I like the flavor. So I'm going to put these ahead of Sour Skittles. The little mini peanut butter cups are good too, but it's the same deal. I can't eat a ton of them. Next up, Ring Pops. This is another gimmick candy. It's essentially a Jolly Rancher on a ring stick that you can put on your finger. Flavor-wise, again, not too much distinct outside just being a hard candy. And unless you're either a literal child or at a rave, you're probably not going to get much utility out of a Ring Pop. I'm going to put them down here on the gimmick tier. Put them above Push Pops. And I can't remember the last time I even had one of those. Next up we have the, was it Lindor? That's the name of those quote-unquote high-quality chocolates, right? Oh, there's more than one. Lindor, yeah. Usually see these around holiday times. This is the standard flavor. There's a whole bunch of different flavors like hazelnut. I like the white chocolate ones, obviously, because I like white chocolate. But the regular ones are fine. They're better than like the Hershey's chocolate and some of these other ones. Whether they justify some quote-unquote premium price tag, it's debatable. They're fine. I'm going to put these... let's put them up here. Below Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Next up, these are gummy lifesavers. I had to try and read the package. It's hard to see. Gummy lifesavers, but I haven't had those in forever either. They're good. I think they're better than the originals. And moving on, we've got M&M's. They're one of the standard candy types that everybody knows. I'm pretty lukewarm on the regular chocolate M&M's. They're okay. Not my first choice. But if they're around, I guess I'll eat them. Put them above Whoppers. And we're going to do these kind of in rapid fire with the same product. Peanut M&Ms are better than the regular ones. They're more interesting in my opinion. So they're going to go up here further on B tier. The real travesty in this whole tier list is that my favorite, the peanut butter M&Ms, are not on here. And that's very sad. Because I would put those probably up here on A tier. I don't know if any candies on here are going to hit S tier. I guess we'll see as we proceed here. Yeah, we'll just have to see where my opinion falls. I tend to have a pretty middle of the road opinion, I guess, on the majority of these. I guess that shows you how much candy I consume on a daily basis. All right, next up, Starburst. This is the regular flavored Starburst, right? Yeah, I'm gonna put those above the berry ones or whatever these pink ones are. I like the flavors in the original Starburst more than any of the other ones. There's like a cherry. I think it's cherry. I think that's my favorite flavor. Next up, these are Jelly Bellies, the mini jelly beans. It's like a whole mix of flavors in one package. These are good. There's some kind of funky flavors in the Jelly Belly lineup I don't like, but they're pretty in the minority there. Like, I don't like the black licorice ones, like I've mentioned before. Buttered popcorn is kind of weird. I'm not a huge fan of that. But overall, Jelly Bellies are pretty decent. So I'm going to put them behind Skittles up here. We're not talking about like the weird gimmick challenge of gross flavored jelly beans. I've seen enough YouTube videos of people doing that. I don't think I want to experience that at all. Get like barf flavored jelly beans. It does not sound like a good time to me. Next up, we have Rockets, or Smarties as they're called here in the States. These are little fruit flavored sugar, like compressed sugar disc candies. These were common in Halloween packs. I'm going to put them down here on C tier. No real strong opinion. They taste fine, but I'd never go out of my way to eat them. Next up, Sweet Tarts. These are the chewy Sweet Tarts, I think. Edward says, you don't like the soap flavored jelly beans? I don't think any of the weird flavored jelly beans sound particularly appealing. They got like grass. They have, that was like detergent soap. You have rotten eggs. None of that sounds like fun to me. But sweet tarts, this is like a coated hard candy, different fruit flavors. No real opinion on sweet tarts. I can't even remember the last time I had them. I'm going down there in C tier. Next up, we got Mentos, the Fresh Maker. The mint ones, I'm not a fan of the mint ones. I think, and these are the kind of chewy flavored candies with like the kind of hard outer shell and then they're chewy on the inside. I don't think that texture works for mints. Like, I like mints just fine if they're hard, something like an Altoid or something like that. But as a chewy candy, it doesn't really do it for me. Now, the fruit flavored Mentos I do like. Those are good. I'm going to put those up here. Let's see. I'll put them down here after dots. Can't remember the last time I had any Mentos, but I do like the different flavors. Next up, Laffy Taffy. Laffy Taffy is fine. I like the banana and strawberry flavored ones. Let's put them on B tier. Put them after Gummy Lifesavers. I know some people are kind of on the fence about whether or not they like the banana ones because the banana ones are very artificial. But I like them because I like the flavor, not because it tastes like actual bananas. Next up, Pixie Sticks. These are the paper tubes of fruit flavored sugar that you just directly consume, or if you're a dumb kid, you snort them. I obviously never did that. Pixie Sticks are going to go down here on the don't really care gimmick tier. I have no opinion on Pixie Sticks at all. Had to lean in close to see some of the packaging on these other ones. Next up, we got the regular Jolly Ranchers, the hard candies. Jolly Ranchers are fine as far as hard candies go. I think I like them more than Lifesavers, so I'm going to put them here. It does suck that they get stuck to your teeth, though. I think the blue ones are my favorite flavor, the Jolly Ranchers. Blue ones and then the red ones, the cherry. Now, Jolly Rancher Chews. The Chews were the same flavors, but like gummies, from what I remember. I think I like those a little bit more, but not by much. So put them one tier above on the lower end of B tier. Next up, we got another seasonal candy, which tends to have different opinions depending on who you talk to. Peeps. Little marshmallow birds that people like to stick in the microwave for some weird reason. Peeps, I've had before around Easter when they sell them. They taste kind of like sugary foam marshmallows. That being said, I don't dislike them. I'd go to bat for Peeps over candy corn for sure. So I'm going to put them up here above Milk Duds. They fall into a similar category as the Cadbury Cream Eggs in that I don't mind the taste, but I can't eat too many of them. I eat more than like 2, and it starts to get a little bit too sweet. And they come in, what, packs of 6? Yeah, they're fine. It's a good thing they're seasonal. Next up, we got Mike and Ike's. I like Mike and Ike's. They're one of my favorite fruit flavored candies. In fact, I'm going to put Mike and Ike's on S tier. I think looking at the way these are laid out, if I had to choose S tier candies in addition to lemon heads, Mike and Ike would probably be up there as well. These are those little like pill shaped fruit candies. They've got kind of a firm outer shell, but they're chewy. And there's a whole bunch of different flavors and different combinations. Like I think there's a berry one that's not on here. But Mike and Ike's are good. I like those. All right, next up we got another Hershey bar. This is cookies and cream. Cookies and cream Hershey's bar is much more distinct and noteworthy in my opinion than the standard Hershey bar, which is pretty basic. I actually like the Hershey's cookies and cream when I've had it. So I'm going to put this one up on middle of B tier. It's actually going to jump above M&M's just because I think it's a little more noteworthy of a flavor. I'm not going to be groundbreaking or change the world or anything, but compared to the regular one, which is just chocolate, I think it's more interesting. Next up, Snickers. More candy bars. I like Snickers. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to put Snickers above Kit Kats. I do like the mix of chocolate, peanut butter, or peanuts, caramel, and I think it's like a nougat layer in the middle. You get a lot in a Snickers, so there's a lot of variety and different types of textures and flavors. That's going to probably start leading the pack when it comes to the B tier. Could justifiably put it in A tier. It depends on my mood, so I'm going to keep it at the top of B. Next up, Twix. This is their whole weird marketing campaign about right Twix versus left Twix, which, you know, it's whatever. I like Twix too. In fact, my favorite three of the standard, at least in the States, candy bars would be Snickers, Kit Kat, and Twix. These three would be at the top of my list for those. I do like the kind of cookie layer inside the Twix and then the caramel and chocolate on the outside. It's a bit different and distinct compared to some of the other ones out there. I still think their marketing is kind of dumb, but the product itself is good. There's a peanut butter one, which is not on the list, I think. That's also good. Next up, we've got bubble tape. Oh, I haven't seen bubble tape in a long time. Bubble tape is going to go on the gimmick tier. I don't really chew gum anymore. I used to, but not so much anymore. But the idea that you have was like 6 feet of bubble flavored tape. It's pretty meh to me. Now, Big League Chew. Big League Chew is where it's at, and that's not on the list here, which is a crying shame. But we'll go ahead and move on. Butterfingers. Remember that I do like peanut butter flavored things, so Butterfingers is going to go up here. I guess it's also one of the main ones. These would be the 4 major types of candy bars that I put at the top of my list here. It is annoying that Butterfinger, the whatever that is, wafer stuff on the inside gets stuck on your teeth. But other than that, I do like that it's a peanut butter flavor. It's distinct from these other ones. I haven't had a Butterfinger in a while. Next up, Cherry Sours. Cherry Sours. Looks familiar, but I don't think I've ever had them. So they're going down and haven't tried. They look kind of like cough drops. Next up, Sour Bright Crawlers. This is a generic branded package, but I know there's a couple of noteworthy ones. These are the sour fruit flavored gummy worm ones. These are good. I like these. They're going up on A tier. They're similar in that you can't eat too many of them because the coating will shred your mouth. But I do like the mix of fruit flavors, and they're tart. Tart and generally good tasting. Okay, a couple more. Peach rings. Again, this is a generic package, but there's a whole bunch of different companies do peach rings. Peach rings are also good. I like these a lot. I'm going to put them up here near the top of B tier above Skittles. Any gummy type candy that has this marshmallow part that's part of is like the bottom half. I'm a big fan of that. One of my favorites, the green marshmallow gummy frogs, are not on here, like I mentioned earlier. Those would be near the top of the list if they were. Next up, these are the Ferrero Rocher. Like, they're a chocolate with like a toffee-ish filling on the inside, kind of like a crunchy hollow filling. These are good too. You buy them in these big gift packs. Usually see these more around the holidays. They're good. I'd put them below the Lindor truffle things. Next up, we got the Haribo Gold Bears. These are the standard gummy bears. I do like gummy bears a lot, so I'm going to put them up here. These ones are kind of noteworthy because they kind of achieved notorious status on the internet a handful of years ago. Because people were buying the sugar-free Gold Bears, which had a sugar alcohol sweetener substitute in it that was causing a lot of problems for people who would buy them and eat a whole bunch, and then it would destroy their digestive system, and then they would be screaming on the toilet the next day. And so what kind of went viral was all these hilarious Amazon reviews about people's experience with the sugar-free bears, and it was a whole thing. I remember reading them back when they were hitting their peak. You had all these novels of harrowing tales of people who unsuspectingly, without reading the package, bought packs of the sugar-free bears and absolutely paid for it. I don't have any experience with those, but the regular sugar ones are fine. I like the mix of flavors for gummy bears. Next up, we got Oreos. And it's interesting that there's cookies on here because these are the only cookie entries. Oreos regular and was it double stuff? Yeah, double stuff. Oreos, the vanilla ones, not vanilla, but the regular Oreos, they're fine. I'd probably put them... let's see. Definitely above the middle of the pack. I'm going to put them above Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. There are a million flavors of Oreos, and they seem to be competing with some of their other contemporaries to see who can come up with the most outlandish flavors of Oreos. I'd mentioned ProZD he did a ranking for, was it like 38 flavors of Oreos? A crazy person. But yeah, there's a bunch of them. I've tried several of them. They're decent, but only 2 of them are on the list here. Double stuff, I think, ranks higher than the regular ones. I'm going to put them one tick higher on the tier list. And if you really don't like yourself, you can get the mega stuffed ones, which is even more of the thick cream filling than the double stuff and compared to the single. And before we move on topic, I mentioned a couple times on the channel that I follow another VTuber who's also a beatboxing VTuber, and his name is Prince Lemon Virtual. He had done that VTuber challenge recently that I posted a video for. Anyway, I follow his regular channel content, and he had this short video he posted, and I think he posted it on Twitter too. But what it was he took an Oreo and he scraped out the filling, and this is all done like on a real camera. You could just see his hand, and he took the Oreo halves and he filled it with what looked like Kewpie mayonnaise, which is the Japanese mayonnaise and like the narrow tube with the red cap. Then he filled the Oreo with mayonnaise, and then he put it together and ate it. And I don't know why he did this. It was very concerning. Yeah, to answer your question, Wazzy, yeah, he's a pretty good beatboxer. He's done some beatbox tutorial streams, but for some reason he thought it'd be a good idea to make a mayonnaise Oreo. I don't know why, and it definitely made me concerned for the guy after he posted that video. But I don't know. That's a thing. Maybe. Sounds gross to me. I like Oreos. I like mayonnaise. I do not think those two things go together well at all. But yeah, no shame. But seeing the Oreos on the tier list made me think of that video he posted. It was somewhat recent. It's like, all right, guy, you do you. Watsy's like, nah, not gonna check him out now. He sounds weird. That is literally the only video like that he's ever posted on his channel. Is out of the blue, like totally random. All his other stuff is gaming, and he's done some beatboxing. He did like a cooking stream not too long ago. The mayonnaise Oreo was the first thing. I was like, okay, testing the waters for new groundbreaking content, I guess. He's probably never gonna see this stream, but if he does, I hope you're doing all right, Prince. All right, let's move on. Let's wrap up the tier list here, and we'll wind down. I've been going for, wow, almost 3.5 hours. That's gonna be a new record. All these hot takes. All right, Tootsie Roll. Tootsie Roll, D tier. I don't not understand why anyone that's not from the 1920s would buy a Tootsie Roll now. They taste like chocolate wax. I don't really have anything else to say other than there's no appeal to me at all for Tootsie Rolls. And I don't even know if they still sell them. At least for the Tootsie Pops, you're getting like a fruit-flavored outer shell within the chewy stuff in the middle. That pairs better than just a log of just chocolate wax. Next up, Twizzlers. Are these the pull and peel ones? Yeah, I think so. These are essentially like a red or a cherry licorice flavored candy. These are fine. Again, not my immediate go-to, but if someone has them, I'll eat them. And the pull and peel ones are a bit novel. Wazzy says, I'm mean? Why? Because I have no real good opinions on Tootsie Rolls? Or because I didn't put Twizzlers higher? I require clarification about what bad opinions I presented. Next one, Twizzlers Nibs. I think these are like bite-sized pieces of the Twizzlers candy. I've actually never tried those. I imagine they'd be fine. They'd taste like the regular ones, just in little chunks. Oh, Wazzy says my opinions on Tootsie Rolls is bad. Okay. I will accept that my opinions on Tootsie Rolls are bad. That's fine. Again, I'm not really gonna go die on that hill, but I don't know. If you disagree, I challenge you to present a counterpoint for what sells someone on Tootsie Rolls. I'm open to the argument. I might not agree, but if you're an advocate and fan of the Tootsie Roll, by all means, let me know in the chat. I mean, unless you're using them to make candles or something. Okay, moving on. We'll see what Wazzy says to that. Warheads. These are the extreme sour candies. The extremely sour ones are not a big thing. Like, I don't mind them. They're okay, but I don't eat them terribly often. So I'm going to put them down here above candy corn. There's different flavors, and I guess there's really more of like, unless you like super sour candy, they're pretty gimmicky too, but there's different flavors, and the ones I've tried taste decent. So I'll put Warheads here. They will absolutely erode the inside of your mouth if you eat too many of them though. Next up, these are hard peppermints. These are like the ones you see at the doctor's office when it's sitting in the bowl by the reception desk when you're leaving. they're fine. Or like the front of a restaurant as you're leaving after you pay your bill. Peppermints, they're fine. I'm pretty indifferent. You know, if I'm walking out of a restaurant, I will grab one. I don't have any problem with them. Now the green ones, this is just a generic package of the red ones. The green ones are spearmint, I think. These are peppermint. Spearmint is better to me. If I had a choice, I'd rather have the green ones. But I think these are just the regular standard red and white peppermints, like a candy cane. They're fine. All right, next up, we have 2 flavors of Skittles that I don't recognize. What is that? I cannot read the package. I don't think it's sour. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Orchard Skittles. What is that? Is this new? No, it says 2015. Orchards, Skittles. Oh, different flavors. I see. The regular ones, it's what? Green is apple and cherry, orange, lemon, grape, and regular Skittles. According to this site I just happened to pull up while Googling it, the Orchard Skittles, the green is lime again, which is what I remember. I liked them when they were lime more than when they switched it to green apple. But these are green is lime, dark red's cherry, light red is red apple, yellow's peach, and orange is orange again. So this is like a slightly different remixed version of the original ones. I've never had these. I've never even seen them on the shelves. I'd try them. It sounds good. Okay. We have a counterpoint set of arguments from Wazzy on Tootsie Rolls. She says, okay, Tootsie Rolls are like soft and chewy and nice to eat. If they're hard, you need to warm them up. I am not 80 years old. It's not a damn Werther's original. So what you're saying is the base product requires warming up via, I'm assuming, like a microwave heat source in order for it to not be hard to eat. Now, to be fair, I think it's in those Halloween candy packs, but it's probably made by the same people. They have like the little mini roll, Tootsie Roll things that are fruit flavored. There's like a vanilla one. There was like a strawberry and lime one. They're like little mini Tootsie Rolls. I like those. I just don't like the original brick shaped Tootsie Logs. And to be honest, I've never actually talked to anybody about the big Tootsie Roll products before. I didn't even know they still make them. I just know that back in the day when you used to get the ones that were like maybe a quarter the size of this big stick you see here, like you could get get them in chunks, and I was never a fan. I always tasted like plastic to me. So where would you put them on the tier list, Wazzy, if you were ranking these? I'm not moving it. I'm keeping it in D because I don't like them. But if you were gonna rank them according to your preference, where would you put them? Would you put them up on B, A? Real quick, I need to Google this other Skittles package, this blue one, because I don't know what that is either. Freeze Pop Skittles? Freeze Pop Skittles or imposters? No, I think there's a surprising amount of articles about these limited run packages of candy. I think this one I'm looking at here is imposters. It sounds like they're different mystery flavors that are not coated to different colors from what I gather. I've never tried them, so I don't know. Apparently there's been an arms race of Skittles innovation that I just completely missed. Alright, Wazzy says she would put Tootsie Rolls on A. Wow, that's pretty high up there. Okay, that's fair. I would challenge everyone else in the chat to also weigh in. It's not just a two-person dialogue, obviously. That's very interesting, and I respect your different opinion, even if I don't agree, Wazzy. Or this is also possible, again, maybe Tootsie Rolls in Canada are produced better than they are in the States. That is very possible. We would need to do a side-by-side test of the products in the respective countries in order to get an accurate comparison. Because your guys' Tootsie Rolls may be way better produced than the ones we have here, which would mean your experience is better than mine as far as being familiar with the product. That's very possible. Unless the ones you guys get in Canada were imported from the United States, where they're made or wherever they're made, and you're eating the same ones that we are. Don't know. Wazzy says that's true because A&W in the States sucks. Are you talking about the A&W root beer restaurants? Or are you talking about their root beer products, like the canned sodas with the root beer? I'm familiar with both. I've stopped by the A&W restaurants on road trips before. I honestly wasn't that impressed by the restaurants when I went there. I thought they were pretty overrated from what people told me. All right, let's look at this last one ranked, and then we'll wrap up. All right. Oh, okay. A&W restaurant. Yeah, they're not super common where I live. I've seen them, like I said, on road trips, but it seemed like just another basic burger joint, and they're kind of trading off brand recognition with their root beer. So yeah, I wasn't impressed. If what you're saying is true and they're much better in Canada, that's interesting. I would definitely check them out if I was ever up there. All right, last one we're rating. Haichu. These are Japanese candies. Pretty sure Haichu's Japanese. These are like Japanese Starbursts. And I like Haichu a lot. In fact, I think their flavors and overall product is better than Starburst. They're not quite as waxy and hard. They're a bit softer. So I'm going to put Haichu up here on A tier. I like the strawberry and mango ones. And normally I don't like grape flavored, artificial flavor candy or anything. But the grape Haichus are great. I like those. The Asian grocery store that I go to carries different flavors, like a tropical blend one. That's where the mango comes from. That's pretty good. I'd rank them decently high. Edward says, I didn't know until recently that A&W also has food. Yeah, it's weird because, again, I don't know if they're more common in other states, but they're not common where I live on the West Coast. But I've seen them, and sometimes they're joint restaurants. Like I stopped at one a long time ago that was like an A&W Taco Bell, kind of like the Taco Bell KFC mutant fusion joints. It was that, but it was fused with an A&W, and I wasn't impressed by anything they had on their menu. It was pretty mediocre. But I don't know. If it's better in Canada, then that's good. It's good to know. I've never been to Canada, but I would like to go and visit sometime. Like I said, I live somewhat close to Canada, but I've never been there. All right. Let's take a look at everything we've got here, and then we'll wrap up for the day today. Like I said, this particular candy tier list, which is a good one, I'm glad Wazzy sent this to me because we had some good discussions and some very passionate arguments, which are always valued here. This is not an all-inclusive candy list. There's a lot of stuff on here that I'm surprised is missing. To my disappointment, my favorite candy wasn't on here, again, which was lemon heads. That'd be up here at the top. But even some of the other more common candy bars and other things, again, no Mars, no Three Musketeers. There's no, was it Mr. Good Bar? There's no, what's that one called? It's got like the honeycomb on the inside. It's got like a purple package. What's that called? I think it's popular in Europe too. Oh, it's gonna bother me. Do the Googles. Oh, Violet Crumble. Violet Crumbles are good. I'd rate that decently high. Is that Australian? Oh. I think it's Australian. Yep, it's from South Melbourne in Victoria. Huh. Yeah, those are good. I'd put those up there decently high on the list. There's also, I know Reese's does like peanut butter cookie bar things. They're like chocolate covered cookie crisp bars. Those are also really good. In fact, that's probably my favorite thing they make. That would rank higher than the Reese's peanut butter cups. There's no white chocolate Reese's peanut butter cups, which I also like. Yeah, there's a lot missing, but I think it's still a good selection. I think for the future tier list discussions, we'll see what I can kind of come up with. Like I mentioned earlier on, I did get some good tip-offs from Wazzy for some non-food related stuff, so I've bookmarked those and added them to the list. But if there's other food discussion things you guys want me to talk about, and you see them on the site, like I said, send them to me somewhere, and then I'll put them together and we can talk about them on stream. And then you guys can crucify me for my poor opinions. That's why I'm here. Let's see, what else do I have on my list? Oh, okay. I do have one. We won't get to it today because the stream's been going for a while and we need to wrap up. But I did have an ice cream one on here. In fact, had Wazzy not sent me this candy one, we would have done that as a third tier list. But that'll be part of the next food discussion, which I don't know if that'll be the next time we do a chill stream. But I do want to talk about ice cream. I will see if the one that I selected has enough options, or if I can find a better one. But that'll be coming up. So if you guys have any strong opinions on ice cream, stay tuned. We will get there. But I think that will do it for today. Again, I didn't anticipate for us to go this long, but we had a lot of interesting conversations on food. And just in case someone is tuning into this later or after the fact, it's all in good fun here. I think everyone here is pretty mellow and chill when it comes to these discussions. Hopefully no one is offended by this, but if so, that's never the intention. I will let you guys know when I want you to be offended by something I say, and then I will probably be canceled. But until the next time, we will be getting back together next week for another different variety set of streams once I figure out what they are. I'll be working on planning next week's content for the rest of the weekend, so that stuff will be going up on Twitter once I figure it out. So, once again, thanks for hanging out. I will catch you guys in the next stream. And have yourselves a good evening.